Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, you know we put Ghana first. Candidate Akufo-Addo's campaign was, quote, "I won't stop Galamsey," unquote. But President Akufo-Addo bought into a media and citizens campaign, backed it with the awesome powers of the state, coercive powers of the state, even putting his presidency on the line to the admiration and applause of the whole world. But what happened? As critics say, the campaign is, quote, "a total failure," unquote. And how did confiscated excavators find their way back into the hands of Galamseyers? That is our major issue this morning. And the new voters register and the raw about it. 6 hours of meeting with eminent advisory committee of the Electoral Commission produces no results. No, sorry. Yes, it produced blows. A meeting didn't happen at in a boxing ring. So what's next? The NPP primaries. The party appears to be protecting newer MPs and older MPs. Should they be contested or not? That's the big question. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And on my take today, that is my RTI request number 3. So as you know, I have done request number 1, I've done request number 2, and today is my request number 3. It's a public RTI request. And today my request is to the government and by extension to the president, so to speak, because executive power is in the president. Something happened at Ayawaso, and we commemorated the event yesterday. There was an eminent committee that was set up by no mean people. It's never better than having Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, having Justice Emil Short, and having a former IGP preside over such a committee over the violence that happened at the Ayawaso by-elections. This committee produced a comprehensive report, made a number of findings that confirm many things that we are aware already, and made specific recommendations, including for prosecution of certain persons, for removal of certain persons from the positions they are now, or they were. And guess what? There was a white paper, a very disturbing, insulting white paper to this eminent committee. A white paper that looked for a criminal defense that does not exist in law. Defense of provocation to assault. And that was pointed out clearly to those who made that white paper, that they were gravely and patently wrong in coming to the conclusion that there was a defense of provocation for which someone who had committed the act of assault, who was alleged to commit the act of assault, should not be put before the court. My RTI request today is, shall we, the people of Ghana, have a report from the government how far it has gone in implementing the few of the recommendations that it accepted. At least not those that it rejected, those it accepted. How far with it? As we go into elections, we want to go comfortably, thinking that what happened in Ayawaso will not repeat itself. So, Mr. President, shall we have a report? It is our money, it is our resources that was used to set up that committee. A committee with a foremost criminal law professor that didn't come to a conclusion that there's a defense of provocation. And somebody sat somewhere, wrote a white paper questioning the knowledge of that professor of law in this country. And of course, that whoever did that has been exposed very badly, that defense does not exist. At least the expectation is that you will put the people in court and let them put up the defense by themselves, not you put the defense up for them. So the recommendations, what has happened to them, because it is intended to protect the security of this country. They made a finding that political parties recruit their people into the security services. This white paper looked this eminent committee in the face and rejected that claim and said that does not exist. We know that that is the situation, and you know that, but you did this. You looked at God and you wrote that report. At least it's our money, it's our tax, it's our resources that was used to produce the report. Let us know how far with the recommendations, unless you're saying it was mere advice, that you are not bound, and that those you accepted, you are not bound. That is my RTI request this morning. And by the RTI law, everybody has a right to make a request. You can make the request in writing. You can also go to the information officer that I have told you about at that particular place you want the information and make the request orally. But when you make a request orally, the information officer must reduce your request into writing and then make copies, get you to sign. If you can't sign, you will thumbprint accordingly, and then you'll be giving a copy. The information officer will have a copy. This is what I want you to learn from the RTI law today. Anybody can make a request. You don't have to be literate. You can make it in writing, and you can make it verbally, orally. If you can't speak in English, you just make it to the person, and there will be a third party invited to verify what you have said, that confirm what you have said to you, which has been reduced into paper, and you will agree that if that is correct, you agree that it is correct, and then you will now append your signature or you will thumbprint, and then a copy will be given to you, and your request will be processed by the information officer. That's by way of my take this morning. So now, let's get to our guest for the issues for this morning. My guest this morning from Kwekubaku's seat is Felix Kwakye Ofosu. He is former Deputy Communications Minister and NDC parliamentary candidate for Abura Asebu Kwaman Kese. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
Right. So I was just saying a while ago that he's vanished from, the media scene because obviously the MPs know that where to do the work really is on the ground, like they say in Chi, agronifum. All right. So by Felix is Godwin Ama, the General Secretary, Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. Thanks for joining us. All right. And to my left, starting with the Honorable Deputy Attorney General and MP for Timpani, Joseph Dindiok Penka, and also Kofi Bento, Senior Vice President of Imani Africa. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, so this is how we begin. I want us to listen to President Akufo-Addo when 2019, at the start of 2019, after the ban had been lifted on the Galamsey, he had a world stage to speak to the world, and how hopeful, how happy, how excited he was about how much we had conquered in the fight against Galamsey. And after you listen to him, you'll hear a campaigner against Galamsey, Solomon Owusu, very popular now because of the questions he had put to Osafo Mafu and the rest that drew a lot of attention, also trying to subject some of what the president has said to the world to scrutiny.
It has become a large-scale and dangerous operation that has reduced our lands and water bodies to sad spectacles, mainly as a result of the introduction of sophisticated equipment and machinery into the field by foreign-controlled criminal syndicates. In Ghana, we moved to address this issue by initially placing a 2-year ban on small-scale mining upon my assumption of office in January 2017, in order to fashion and implement policies on how to sanitize the sector and ensure that in future, small-scale mining would not damage our environment. We had to train some of the small-scale miners in responsible mining and find alternative livelihood resources for others who were engaged in illegal mining. Our efforts have begun to yield dividends. Some of the heavily polluted rivers are showing signs of being restored to health. And recently, there was a lot of excitement. Fish were seen again in one of the most famous rivers of our country, the Ankobra River, after many years of turbidity. We are determined to strengthen the regulatory framework for mining so that illegal mining, i.e. Galamsey, does not reappear.
Fellow Ghanaians, my name is Solomon Owusu from Denver, Colorado, United States. But I'm in Prestia now, Prestia, western region of Ghana. This river is River Ankobra. This is the river in Prestia that Nana Akufo-Addo went to South Africa and lied to the whole world that this river has been restored and we have fishes swimming in the river. Can fishes live in this river? Fellow Ghanaians, this is River Ankobra. He mentioned it. River Ankobra has been restored. This is River Ankobra in Prestia.
All right. So last week, if you followed, and I have no doubt that you would follow, we played a minister visiting one place and making the disclosure to all of us, to our shock, really shock, that it did appear that in some places where Galamsey was supposed to have been stopped, it has not been stopped. And in fact, heavy machines are back and they are working. We have also heard Professor Frimpong Boateng, who is a minister and who also has the charge of the interministerial committee responsible for ensuring that this thing is stopped, lamenting how the difficulties that he's encountering. Among others, he had to respond to 500 excavators that were seized that cannot be accounted for. In fact, we know that the concerned small-scale mining group has come forward, and some of them have been very public to say that they know where the excavators are. The excavators have found their way back into the hands of some illegal Galamsey miners. They have been sold back to them, even though these were seized and kept at the various district assemblies. So, Kofi, let me start with you. Occupy Ghana and the Media Coalition Against Galamsey issued a statement, very tall one this week, as you know, talking about their disappointment about what has gone on so far. But having followed everything that has gone on up to this point, what do you have to say? And you have also been championing and giving specific solutions on how this can be stopped.
Yeah. And Good morning to everybody, but I'm sorry on the issue of Galamsey. I'm going to be totally pessimistic. If you remember, like you said, we've been discussing this thing years ago. I remember when the drone issue came and we said, forget it. Okay. And my brother Inusa Fuseni was here and they talked about all kinds of things. And I said, there is only one solution for Galamsey. That is, make a simple rule that wherever illegal mining is found, sack the DC. Look, for me it's that simple. It's as simple as that. And you know why that will not be done? It will not be done because too many of our leaders are involved in Galamsey. Too many politicians are funded from Galamsey money. Too many of the people involved in Galamsey have too much power in this country. So we won't win the fight against Galamsey. Samson. And that's what I've said here all the time, because the very people, look, when they formed Operation Vanguard, I sat here and said, that same group of people will become the enablers. What happened? We are not serious about Galamsey because our leaders are involved. Look, there are times when it's almost reckless to give the true picture and what can happen. It's almost reckless because you don't want that to happen. I can tell you from our study of what happened in Sierra Leone, especially Sierra Leone, Galamsey caused the country to collapse because the people found that the diamonds were going, they were not benefiting. So what you call those armies and those rebels, they started as Galamsey people. And then they armed themselves to protect the diamond trade and their mining of the diamonds. It turned into something else. What I'm saying is that, look, our leaders may think that right now they are benefiting one way or the other from Galamsey, and so they are not going to take, any serious action against it. Despite what Ken and Cole, Occupy Ghana, everybody is saying and doing, they just come and say things, they go back. Excavators are the single largest construction equipment that has been imported in this country the past 10 years. In thousands of excavators. What are we doing with them? We know they are coming through the ports, they are going to the hinterlands, they are digging and doing Galamsey. So look, like I said, it stresses me greatly. But we are not serious about Galamsey. If any leader is serious about Galamsey, nobody will buy drones. Because if you fly with a helicopter, you see what is going on. Every place where Galamsey happens is in a district. And there's a district chief executive. Our information, you are here, you can tell us, is that some of the district chief executives are the people renting the equipment and protecting the Galamsey people. And the chiefs will tell you, I've heard some of them say that government hasn't done anything for us. These Galamsey people, when they come, they give us money, they take care of us. So Samson, we've been just playing lip service to this thing. I don't think we'll succeed.
Your pessimism is frightening because we are aware of the dangers of Galamsey.
Yeah.
And particularly for the Ghana Water Company, we have seen the effects already. And they have told us in the next 5-10 years, if we don't resolve this problem, you and I may have to import water. We have to buy water that is imported. And I think that really must send a signal straight. You had Dr. Nade De Tego, project coordinator of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. She was here on the show last week. She mentioned one of the issues you mentioned, that politicians are involved. But what do you think that these DCs you talk about can do when Operation Vanguard, military and police officers armed to the teeth are unable to check this thing?
So again, there is the window dressing and doing something to represent something. Where you do something because everybody's talking about it, everybody's worried about it, and people are saying this. So you want to do something to represent something. And then there is actually doing the thing. There's a saying that...
Is that a fair statement to the government for putting Operation Vanguard out there and placing a ban, making sure that miners are screened and providing livelihood for some of them who, who have been taking their jobs, have been taking... Is that a fair statement to the government?
Well, the point is, the sweetness of the pudding is in its eating. It is not possible for you to tell me, or any room of intelligent people, that the Ghana army with all its resources cannot dislodge a band of miners and young people They can do it if they want to do it.
They have killed soldiers.
Oh, my brother, of course, if they have guns and they shoot, they'll kill you. But it is not possible to convince me that our Ghana army, worldwide renowned in peacekeeping, whatever, cannot dislodge miners in the land space of Ghana. So if they're not doing it, something else is the issue. And when Vanguard was put in place and all that, those guys are under orders. Okay? And God rest his soul, when Major Mahama died, there were rumors that people were angry with what the army was doing because some of them were protecting the miners. Too much is going on. I'm glad you have this gentleman here. He's from there, he will tell you. But the point I'm making is this. Our government is playing lip service. I say, what stops them from just simply making the rule that if we find...
lip service is not putting an operation team of military and police officers into those areas. That's
lip service is where you put the army there and still the problem...
committee that is screening and has thousands of licenses taken away from people and is now put only about a few back because they are qualified to do the job and do it well.
You take out licenses, you form committees, you put the army there, and the problem is still there. And this is not a problem that human beings cannot solve.
The problem is still there in what measure?
The Galamsey is going on. Okay, you seize excavators, the excavators go back. They clear the people, the minister goes and finds them mining. Okay, we see the rivers are still messed up. So Samson, my point is, how is it possible to convince me that you send the Ghana army in and they can't dislodge these guys? Look, how big is a district? For which reason, if a helicopter can fly from the north to the south 4 times in a day, we have more than 2. If you choose to, every week you can check where there's Galamsey. If you choose to, you can send people there dropping from the helicopter. We've seen them doing that at Independence Square. You know, so my point is, as for all the things that are going on, you can have a lot of action. You should never mistake action for progress. Never mistake action for progress. You can do a lot and not achieve anything. If we want to deal with Galamsey, I say somebody should come and explain to me why we cannot simply say, if you are a district chief executive and anybody reports Galamsey, and it is confirmed that is happening in your district, you will lose your job. Why can that not be? Until I see that, I'm not sure we are serious about Galamsey, because again, I'm saying too many politicians are funded from money Galamseyers are giving them.
Are you suggesting by what you're saying that those at the forefront of fighting it are complicit?
I am suggesting, based on a lot of information, and again, I am happy my brother is here, that a lot of the money from Galamsey is going to fund politics. And some politicians are beholden to people who are involved in Galamsey. To that extent, therefore, they can never be sincere about fighting them. And look, this is a national issue. And I'm making it general because I want us all to see the problem.
Well, whilst you finish the point, immediately you are done with the point, I'm going to play 2 small clips to you of the president when he was campaigning. So I say candidate Akufo-Addo. And then after he won elections, President Akufo-Addo. And tell me if you can't trust and have faith that this campaign is working, despite, you know, what we are hearing in the midst of the campaign.
Before
I'll play
you play
that to you shortly,
see,
but go ahead.
See, I trusted the president when he made those utterances. And I don't believe he was not sincere. Of course, he can't go into the bush and clear the Galamseyers himself. But he has to make the rules and insist that they are followed. I have watched over time, and I've seen the president take steps to try and deal with Galamsey. But I've also seen what Manasseh did. And in the seat of government, people are accused of assisting Galamseyers. So the president is one man, and I may trust him. But clearly his plans are not working. Maybe he's being sabotaged by his own people, as the work of Manasseh suggested. Of course, we'll say those people are under investigation, but we all know what's going on, what is not going on. So it's not about what a person says in a campaign. It is about what they do. And I've said, do not mistake action for progress. People can do a lot and achieve nothing.
Okay. I'm coming to the man who heads the National Association that is also seeking to assist in this whole process. The concerned small-scale miners will also join us on this line because we need to talk to the people who are affected most. But before I do that, I promised Kofi that I'll play something. So we used to measure whether or not you can trust this government in what it's seeking to do. Listen to candidate Akufo-Addo and listen to President Akufo-Addo.
Nukra bako eni mokra kwa. Enye nukra ne, enye nukra otsa. Afro kese, LNDC 4%.
All right, so you just heard candidate Akufo-Addo, but we are going to listen to President Akufo-Addo. Candidate Akufo-Addo was speaking in Chi at a campaign, telling people that they had heard that the NDC had said that when he comes into office, he was going to stop Galamsey. He told them that was a lie from hell and that he was going to create jobs for them and he will not be the one to stop Galamsey. But after he won, see 360-degree change and check the president's consistency in even putting his presidency on the line. Okay, we have a little difficulty with that sound, but we'll bring it back. When you hear, and you have heard the president many times after the campaign, what do you say? That he's playing lip service?
Okay, thank you and good morning to listeners. First of all, we as the Small Scale Miners Association supports government sanitizing the small scale mining industry, because we believe that when the industry is sanitized, Ghanaians will have a lot of benefit from the small scale mining sector. For the president, we all trusted him the time he said he's going to put his presidency online for the fight against illegal mining. And as an association, we supported most of the campaigns. For example,
you trusted,
we
you
trusted,
supported.
yes, we trusted the time he said it. We trusted it,
and you supported,
and then supported it. So we sent our task force out there, and the association spent over 1 million Ghana cedis, so that we'll be able to clear the river bodies and then support the whole economy in terms of the water that we use, so that we don't lose our water. As the water service said, in the next 10 years we'll be importing water. And if you don't have clean water, you will not be even able to recover your gold very well, because we all need, if the turbidity is very high, you will lose a lot of gold. That is why we supported the whole campaign. But as the Vice of Imani said, military intervention over the years have not yielded any results. It started from the PNDC time, President Kufuor's time, it came to President Akufo-Addo, President Mahama, and now we are in. So our approach, the time we met the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources before this, we told them in 2016, when over close to 4,600 illegal miners invaded Obuasi mine, we took a different approach. And by then, Tony Obin was the chief executive. He mandated Richard Kofi Afenu to lead in that. So we have the Chamber of Mines, we had the Small Scale Miners Association, we have representatives of the illegal miners who were on the AGA concession, we have CSOs in Obuasi, we have the police, and then we have the traditional. So we met as a committee, we engaged with the small scale miners, and in less than 1.5 months, we were able to relocate this, the 4,600 illegal miners from the AGC concession. So it's not military approach that will always, because the military approach will give you just a short-term results. But in the long term, as you said, there will be a lot of compromises along the way, and we will not be able to achieve the results. Secondly, Galamsey is a national issue, but we can manage it at the district level or the local level, and I support it clearly. As part of the KPIs for within the roadmap that was set by government before the ban was lifted, the KPIs were set for district chief executives that if Galamsey operations is in your district, you will be fired. It's part of the KPI, which we also supported. So the district mining committees that we have, they were all inaugurated in the districts.
And headed by the district.
And headed by the district chief executives. But I tell you, for now, they are not functioning.
Oh, yeah.
The only this thing that is functioning is Operation Vanguard and then Galamstop. Machines that we said have been sent to the district assembly, most of them were not sent to the district assembly. There were 3 places that they were sent to. We have a yard in Obuasi, another one in Takwa, and in Accra. We have Operations Vanguard picking those excavators, and then it's sent to the district assembly temporarily. Then Galamstop, which was headed then by Mr. Ajekum Ampofu. They had low beds that transport them from there to Accra. So when the equipment are seized, the district chief executives have no authority over them. It's the Galamstop who have authority over them. So most of them were sent to either the yard in Obuasi, Accra, or Takwa. We had a lot of information from the chairman of those districts that most of these equipments that were seized, about 2 of them, they've seen it back at the Insuta Forest Reserve working. And it's been given to one guy called Abanga. So we asked, who is that Abanga? In the process, that excavator got bent by the forest guards there. So we realized that within the transporting those excavators from the various wings, they don't get to their final destination. It gets missing within that. So the whole issue of not knowing where the excavators are, that's why the concerned small-scale miners are saying that they know where they are. And it's true. Those excavators, majority of them never find their way to where they are supposed to go to. And how did the interministerial have the data of 500 excavators? Because they were briefed. Any machine that was picked, it was sent to them. And those low beds were paid. From our calculation, it will cost the state not less than 2.5 million Ghana cedis to transport those 500 excavators that are missing.
Just a couple of questions. They get missing in transit.
Yes.
From the point of seizure where they are kept with the DCEs temporarily.
Yes.
So they get missing, and there is evidence that they get missing. And who takes responsibility? What has happened to anybody when these have gotten missing?
That is why the minister who leads the interministerial is saying that the 500 excavators are missing. And we are asking that if this equipment are sent to the various yards, how they manage to get...
Without interrupting, I think we have to put certain things in perspective. The minister hasn't admitted that 500 excavators are missing.
Yes, he has not.
He has not.
He challenges the number.
Yes, exactly.
He says it should be less.
Exactly.
But he does not dispute the facts that are being conveyed.
Yes, so you see, that's why I'm saying that
Thank
we
you
should
for
put
that
things in
intervention.
perspective.
Right.
Okay.
So my question really is, I was looking for an answer. Who takes responsibility? Those who are transporting them, they are human beings. They are known. Yes. What has happened to any one of them once we have discovered that these excavators, didn't get to their final destination?
So we need to know who employed them and what are the terms of reference that were given to them when they were transporting those equipment, and how did they get paid for the work that was done? Do you get it? Because you are supposed to pick an excavator from a particular point to the other point. And by the end of the day, some have got missing.
Okay. You also said that it is, or actually what Kofi Bentil is suggesting as the biggest way, the best way to solve this problem, letting the DCs fall if illegal mining is discovered in your place. And I said when the ban was lifted on Galamsey, I was wrong about that. I meant to say when the ban was lifted on small-scale mining. Now, if it is part of the KPIs that if you're a DCE, you'll be fired if Galamsey is going on in your jurisdiction, do we have any evidence of any DCE being fired for this?
No, we don't have.
We don't have?
Yes.
But we have evidence of the Galamsey going on in the districts.
And there are so many factors.
So you see what Kofi Bentil is saying?
Yes.
That this thing is not working.
There are so many factors that causes Galamsey to happen in districts. As we speak now, over the years, we have so many dredges on our river bodies. And the association, as I said earlier on, supported, and more than 7,600 were taken off from the river bodies. And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources even supported us by giving us cash of 100,000 Ghana cedis to work on the Brim River. And the time we finished with the Brim River, we were able to pick over 700 dredges from the river body. You guys, so the association is doing much more. When we are given the chance to work with the DCEs, we'll be able to do a lot more at the local level.
You had indicated that without Operation Vanguard, you were able to, as it were, relocate 4,000 illegal miners from the AGC concession, and that it doesn't take soldiers and arms to remove them.
Yeah, it doesn't take soldiers and arms, which we've demonstrated there. It's 2016 that was done. We had all support from government. We have support from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. And the DCEs even were part of the movement committee.
You relocated them to where? You said you relocated them from the AGC concession to where?
And then, AGC shared some part of their concession off. And these miners that were relocated, we sent them to the various areas.
Illegal miners? So why do you relocate them?
No, they were illegal miners, but there are areas to solve the problem of illegality. It's an issue of bread and butter issue. There's so many social issues that you also have to lead. If you push all these people on the streets, what will happen? There are areas where people who are even ex-convicts, they don't find jobs anywhere. It's the small-scale sector that they find jobs. And if those people are kept on the mine and they get their daily bread, they will not go to the streets and create problems for ordinary people.
You're saying so that your focus was to remove the 4,000 illegal miners from AGC's concession and relocate them elsewhere to continue with the illegal mining that you are supposed to stop.
No, it's not illegal mining. It's a designated area for small-scale mining. AGS supported us to develop the area. We created access roads where the hills are dangerous. There were benches that were done so that the small-scale miners can undertake their activities. And the Minerals Commission was involved. The EPA was involved. And then those people were given some form of training, because we developed training program with UMAT, which was supported by the High Commissioner of Australian government. So we trained more than 800 of the small-scale miners before even government started the training program from them. So these people were sent because they know they have a place that they are going to work.
Okay. And
they complied. They complied. Within 1.5 months, we did that. So we proposed the same solution to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Minister Dendas, Honorable Peter Amewu, that look, if we want to use military force, it will not work, because over the years we've done it over and over again. We are not getting solutions. So the best thing is to get all stakeholders involved at the local level, so that we'll be able to fight this. Now the DCs, as people are blaming the DCs, but when you get to the field, now this issue of community mining, most of the areas that the community mining is taking place, as the President and Professor Frimpong Boateng are launching the community mining in designated areas for small-scale mining. You have some people who are politicians and party officials who are also inaugurating, let me use that word, illegal community mining operations in a lot of mining districts. Okay,
we have heard stories about that. So there's some division. People are not too sure who to obey, who to respect. And people say, people even come in the name of Vanguard when they are not Vanguard, and to try and support people and do all sorts of things. These things need to be tackled comprehensively. Now, let's hear from Felix, but before that, there's sound I wanted to play to you about president, not candidate. He heard that quickly, and let's come back.
But I say, Galamsey for say, pass and say, Babe, deep round so, that election I bay, happy before who become. Where they hear me say, may be a Yankupo, catch me say, hear some Babe, I don't hear me. Now me Babe, she say, a bebo man on Cosso, I don't hear me. Yeah, election, I said.
So Felix, this is a president who, whilst campaigning, did not exactly, think about stopping Galamsey, because he was emphatic. If you have heard it said that I will stop Galamsey, it's a lie from the NDC. Then he becomes president, and his rhetoric completely changes. Beyond rhetoric, he takes very monumental steps, concrete steps, including Operation Vanguard, Interministerial Committee, to stop this. And we know some of the fruits of what they have borne as a result of these processes. Do we still doubt him, or we should rather encourage him to push a little more?
Well, Samson, doubt has been written all over this supposed anti-Galamsey fight. It is instructive that you played this clip of candidate Nana Akufo-Addo. At the time, he was obviously engaged in political rent-seeking. He feared that if he went out to say that he was going to stop Galamsey, he would incur the wrath of those engaged in illegal mining, and perhaps they would not vote for him. So he told them what they wanted to hear, and in the process emboldened and encouraged them to carry on with their practice. He claimed that we in the NDC had said that he was going to ban Galamsey. I don't know who in the NDC said that. As far as I know, it was never a campaign message of ours to go out and tell people that Nana Akufo-Addo will stop Galamsey.
He went back to the same people after he won and said, I will do what
he didn't do that. You see, that is where I depart from your narration. When he became president, the fight against Galamsey was never an organic policy of his. What had happened is that you and others in the media had begun a certain campaign and had thrown the spotlight on the deleterious effect of Galamsey on the environment and all of us. So a coalition built, and I'm sure that's when the media coalition against Galamsey was formed. So the president naturally came under pressure, and citizens began to agitate for some action on the part of government to address the issue. So he was compelled in the circumstance to present a facade of waging a battle against Galamsey. Now, he put his presidency on the line, and that is critical. What does that mean? In the simplest terms, that he was saying that he was going to be responsible if the fight against Galamsey failed. That is what it means to put your presidency on the line. It will stand to reason, therefore, that having made this commitment, he will erect a robust systems and process to address the issue, and then put his very best men in charge of executing that assignment. But it would appear as if the commitment, or the semblance of it, stopped at the inauguration of this anti-Galamsey task force and the Interministerial Committee against illegal mining.
The president should get some Wellington boots and get on the field?
I have never suggested so. I have said that he should put in place the systems and select his very best men, because at least it is the one thing that he put his presidency on the line for. It means that he takes it very seriously, at least on the face of it. Now, the question that we need to ask is whether or not the president did these two things, the systems, the processes. Do we have his very best men tackling this phenomenon?
Professor Fimpron is one of his very best men.
Professor Fimpron is highly respected in another field.
Yes.
Health.
It's unfortunate now his own party people accuse him of being complicit in the process.
That in itself is telling.
A committee that shows
something.
That shows us results of
what
some
results?
of the things they have done.
The results we are aware of now is that the Ghana Water Company, only last week or so, said that they are unable to abstract sufficient water from the rivers in the western region to treat so that they could supply to consumers. And that if the activities of these illegal miners did not stop immediately, they will be compelled to shut down their treatment plants. That is the result we have on the table. In addition to this, I have seen, and I'm sure many of us have seen it, we've seen evidence, we've seen footage, we've seen sound recordings of people actively engaged in Galamsey. Why? The disappearance of these excavators
and the revelations by the concerned small-scale miners association that those excavators have found their way back into the hands of Galamsey operators, does it not tell us that that fight has failed? Now, excavators, as Mr. Bento pointed out, are not like motorcycles or tricycles or even minivans. These are huge earth-moving equipment that you require another vehicle actually to transport over some distances. Even shorter distances, you need another vehicle to transport.
He says we should have spent over
Absolutely.
$1 million.
More
than 2 million.
Absolutely. So it means that considerable efforts and resources would go into moving the excavators from where they were placed to where they are now. The question to ask is the president not aware that he has put people in charge of this exercise? For which reason, if something goes amiss, they ought to be held liable. Why? The law says that when equipment like excavators and other things used in Galamsey are seized, it should be kept in the custody of the police. If it is in the custody of the police, you can hold the police accountable. And I'm sure they themselves will be aware that eyes or fingers will be pointed at them, so they will exercise a bit more caution. But this did not happen. They were in the custody of people other than the police. So if the excavators get missing, we know exactly who to hold responsible, and that is those who have been put in charge of this exercise. Samson, as I speak, has President Akufo-Addo taken any action that you are aware of against those under whose watch these excavators are supposed to have gotten missing? Now we are haggling over the numbers. Even if it is one excavator, it is a clear indication of the failure of this activity or this exercise. But the whole thing was designed to fail ab initio because there was really no commitment. It was expedient for the president to act the way he did, having come under pressure. Again, when we have reached some epoch moments and some things have happened, what has been the response of the president? And I'm happy my brother, Honorable Penka, is here. When Aisha Juan was apprehended, Samson, it was a golden opportunity for the government to demonstrate its seriousness in this battle. Before we could blink an eye, a most bizarre nolle prosequi had been issued for the case to be discontinued in court. Then, on our blind side, she was whisked away and taken to China. When questions emerged, the senior minister, and I believe he was speaking authoritatively, cited economic diplomacy because we were going to get some handouts from China. The president was willing to sacrifice the gains that would have been made had Aisha Juan been fully prosecuted and punished for the wrongdoing that she was alleged to have engaged in regarding Galamsey. In addition to this, Samson, no sooner had the anti-Galamsey task force and the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining been formed than allegations and in some instances evidence emerged of corruption and wrongdoing. At the very least, your friend Anas came up with a video in which we saw Charles Bisu, who was coordinator, I believe. Forgive me if I've gotten the designation wrong. Secretary, I beg your pardon. What action did the president take? Mr. Bisu resigned from the Interministerial Committee, but kept his position as a presidential staffer.
He's been investigated.
Well, Samson.
If he's found
saying
guilty,
that what I'm asking,
maybe that's the point where the president wants to take an action if he's found guilty.
Samson, what action did the president take? In this country, people have left their positions on the basis of
You don't know if the president advised him to resign his position.
In the Mambe and Johnson case, on the basis of allegations made against some people, a handful of ministers and government appointees resigned their position. I'm saying that Mr. Bisu remained in office as a presidential staffer. It did not send a signal to me, and I believe reasonable Ghanaians, that the president was serious about this fight. At the very least, you should have asked him to step aside from his government position to show you, again, where are we with the investigation? It's been over a year, if I'm not mistaken. How come that the one policy, the one initiative that the president has put his presidency on the line for, witnesses such sloth, such snail pace in investigations into allegations of wrongdoing against a key official,
and the president is to blame for that?
But why?
The president is not the the criminal agency.
As I speak to you, the president is not a criminal agency, but there are government officials who belong to the previous administration who are standing trial for what I would describe as less serious offenses than this. They are members of the NDC. Our national chairman is in court over an offense that I would dare say does not measure up to what has been revealed in this anti-Galamsey fight. So if the president is willing, and depending on the coloration of who is involved, he takes action. He has not taken the requisite action in this matter. And I don't think anybody can be satisfied with this.
Okay.
Samson, again, it is not only excavators
Sorry?
What should the president have done? He should have arrested Bisu and
No,
sent him.
Well,
I've
the
asked him
same
those
thing the
questions. So
president,
I'll come to
the
you.
same thing the
I'll
president
come
and the
to you,
government
yeah.
did. The same thing. No, Mr. Penka. The same thing the president did. In the case of Mr. Ampo, how long did it take between the time Mr. Ampo's supposed tape emerged and the time he was put before court? How long did it take? It didn't take 2 months. Yet in Mr. Bisu's case, we are going over a year. It is a telltale sign of the lack of seriousness that we are all speaking about. And I'm saying that in this country, we tend to mistake flowery language and lofty rhetoric for good intention and action. We have not seen the action that should engender confidence in us that this president is serious about the fight against
Don't
Galamsey.
vote for me to be president if I don't win this fight. And you say that's rhetoric?
But it is rhetoric.
Somebody
What has
can
been
go that extent.
Samson, what has been the outcome? Perhaps he believes that Ghanaians will not punish him for it. What has been the outcome? At the end of the day, we measure success by the outcomes. Today, Ghana Water Company is threatening to shut down their plants because waters are polluted. The same water bodies that whose supposed cleanliness a few years ago was highlighted as proof positive of how effective the fight has been. Today is filled with mud because Galamsey operations are taken. And it is not me
Some
or
will
you.
ask, some will ask, can you imagine a situation where he didn't make this intervention as a president?
But something, you see, what is worth doing is worth doing well. When you come and tell me that you have put your presidency on the line, because of the seriousness of that declaration, I would expect a certain level of action, which is commensurate with the rhetoric.
Okay.
But you see, something, Mr. Bento speaks about sacking DCs. Why? The president appoints the DCs directly, doesn't he? So, how long should it take him to dismiss a DC under whose word Galamsey operations re-emerge?
Okay.
He hasn't done it.
All right.
So where from the optimism that we have to, and see again, final point before you go. The fight against Galamsey goes beyond putting boots on the ground. It goes, and as Mr. The name again, I beg your pardon, Godwin has indicated.
I think we must note, though, that at the very start, one DC suffered for this.
Well, but Samson, there are bigger fishes. Look, I even find it embarrassing that Professor Frimpong Boateng would announce the disappearance of excavators. Elsewhere, he would resign his position.
Okay. All right.
Elsewhere, where they take these things seriously, he would resign his position.
Okay, you hold on. But like I said, the lady, the Dr. Nadede was here last week. She asked for all of us to support them because they have some problems, including what we are complaining about, political, interference, and particularly blackmail. At this time, going into elections, people are seeking to blackmail, and they say, if you don't allow us to do our work, we'll vote against you. So we as citizens must come together to assist it to work. After all, like you said, this was a campaign started by citizens, started by media, and not by the government. Let me bring on very quickly Michael Kwejo Pepra. He's president of the Concerned Small Scale Miners Association. Michael, good morning, and thank you for joining us on Newsfile.
Thank you, Samson.
Right. So, Michael, you are on record to have said publicly, confirmed that the excavators are going back into the same illegal hands. Your friend here has confirmed the same thing and actually mentioned someone's name. How do you get this information, and what do you do with it when you get it?
First of all, let me extend my greetings to your viewers and your panelists as well. It's true. These machines that were taken from various mining sites were taken to Accra. And I think industrial areas, to be precise. We started to do a follow-up on these machines. We were able to go to court, and court gave an order for those machines to be released because some of us had our license. When the order came and we started doing a follow-up, tracking where our machines were, we went to the yard that the machines were taken to, and to our dismay, when we went there, those machines were not there. We went to some of the offices to ascertain why those machines were moved from where we thought the machines were. And they told us that they can't do anything about it. Even if court has given order for those machines to be released, it doesn't work there. So we started tracing those machines by ourselves. We were able to trace some of these machines as far to Navongo. Yes. We went there, and these machines, some have tracking device. So when the machine starts to work, you can track where the machines are. We went to Navrongo, we met one Alaji. They were like, this machine belongs to us. And he said, yes, even if it belongs to us, he has bought it from some people. And for that matter, even if we want some of these machines to buy, he was going to need us to whoever sold those machines to. They were like, wow. Another instance, they came to take a machine from Kutukum in Ashanti region. We tracked those machines and we realized the machines were used in renting. So if somebody is engaging in illegality, then what they are saying, and you see a machine, leaving all these things behind, and then these machines are sold or given back to, another prospective Galamsey, then what is the headway, or what is the way forward? That is why we came out, because we have information. We've gone to the authorities. We reported these issues to them. And it's not only machines, pickups, cars. We have seen a lot of cars, and we can't trace these cars. So that is what is happening. So if the minister comes and says that over 500 excavators are missing, then we need to call him to order, and he should come and tell us, because they take inventory of all these machines.
Kojo, my question to you is, when you make these discoveries, and it looks like you've been very diligent, you've been doing some work following the trail, what do you do with the information you have?
We go to the chairman of the interministerial committee, and we report back to him what we have found. And sometimes they tell you, oh, don't worry, you go, we are going to work on it, and nothing is done. You only leave and you call them. Oh, you wait, you will call you. That is what they have been doing. And these machines are back to field. Yes, it has changed hands from the ownership. Let's say if I own the machine and it has been taken, it has been sold to another person, and now there's a new owner, and those machines are being engaged in the same thing.
So if the committee set up by the president or state officials got in contact with you, you can lead them to retrieve these machines? Is that what you're saying? We
have started. We've called all our members. We are taking the chassis number. We've asked some of our members to bring the document to ascertain, because whatever we are saying is not a mere hearsay. We have evidence, and even if they should invite us today, we are willing to come, and then we are willing to also try and retrieve those machines. Because one, if we don't retrieve these machines, it means some people are making money from the fight against Galamsey. Two, what do we do with those dugout pits over there? Because the person is engaging in illegality. We can use these machines to cover this pit, and another person goes to buy the same machine and use it for the same way. Why if they call us, we will come. If they should invite us today, we are willing to furnish them with all the information we have, and we are going to give them lead.
Okay, but you have not lost.
Places that we've gone, and we've been able to retrieve those machines.
But you have not lost faith in the committee?
Sorry?
You have not lost faith in the campaign against it?
Oh, we have lost faith. Now we don't believe anything that they say. Because let me tell you something, Mr. Sample. When this fight against Galamsey started, the Lands and Natural Resources brought about a project operator implementation document, which was called the Multilateral Mining Integrated Project. That project, they had a meeting with us. We had a broader discussion, and we brought about this project, this document. And after, we've had this project done, Mr. Mewu was kicked out. And then the new interministerial committee was set up, and then they started the fight against Galamsey, putting, aside the document. We sat down, and then we've all agreed that we were going to follow, because this document has a short-term, long-term, and medium-term. And this document, if I could read chapter 2, subsection 1, it brings about the highlight of the main issue. Because let me tell you, people are engaging in Galamsey because, one, they don't have documents. All these lands that we see are being owned by foreign companies. 98% of mineable land in this country are being owned by foreign companies. They only come take these concessions and they go sit outside the country. What they are only interested is they renew their documents when the documents expire. So somebody who is a prospective miner who wants to do the right thing is not being able to acquire the license needed to mine. And that is one thing that is breeding Galamsey.
Okay.
And if I should read conflict, I think the chapter.
Okay, so you read that for us and then we end it there. Read that portion for us and we end this discussion with you
okay. This is a common conflict between small-scale miners or Galampayers and then the large-scale. So this is common between large-scale operators working within a formal regulated land tenure framework and some small-scale miners illegally working on the land over which they have no legal entitled to. Because if, let's say, I am in Kotokum, I can be a small-scale miner. I can purchase an excavator. I think that is where I am from. And my father is a chief. I've gone to Business Commission to ascertain if, a portion of those land can be given to me so that I can mine responsibly. And to your dismay, you go to Business Commission, they will tell you, oh, this land belongs to Pilangio. You will get angry, and they will be like, if my father is a chief, why can't I mine? So you mine with impunity, do whatever you want without being regulated. Then at the end, they leave all that outfit, and then it becomes a problem for the nation.
Okay, Michael, so if I hear you, you are saying that a return to this particular document as introduced by Peter Amewu is one of the ways, the surest way to resolve the problem.
Exactly so.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. Kwejo Pepra is president, Concerned Small Scale Miners Association. You agree with his last point?
Yes, the MMIP, we all developed it.
MMIP?
Yes.
Which is what?
Multilateral Mining Integrated Project.
Multilateral Mining Integrated Project. By Amewu?
Yes, it's because the time we informed him that we should not use the military approach, but we should use the all-involving approach to solve it at the local level. All stakeholders were engaged, and we went to the Takwa School of Mines. We had the academians, we all came together and then had developed that document.
Okay.
But after the ban was lifted, this document, we should have kicked it in place so that at the end of the day, we start rolling it, the short term, the long term, because it has 5 years lifespan. Okay. And it's situated in the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, which even when there is a successive government, you can follow it up, you can sustain it. Okay. But now we are implementing things by a committee, and we don't know how long the committee will last. So if the committee is not there, what happens to this project?
Thank you very much. Kofi, quickly.
Quick information on this. Samson, I was in Aspen and I met artisanal silver miners. It's very important because of what he's saying. And I was going to buy tools, so we engaged them. They said they mine, they are galamseyers. It's artisanal silver mining, individuals. So I said, how do you do this without destroying the environment? Aspen is a billionaire's playground. Their biggest industry is tourism in winter. Snow falls and the whole place is white. People go there to pay money to ski. Why it's important is somebody can do galamsey, and afterwards white snow falls, no environmental degradation. People pay billions to come and ski. So when I asked them how, they said, oh, they do it, but they do it under strict state supervision, and they do not spoil the environment. My point is this: it is possible to do artisanal mining or galamsey or small-scale mining under strict state supervision. This is a failure of the state.
I see.
And we can fix it.
All right. And I will get a quick one from Felix later. But Felix, think about it and let us know, does the NDC has any blueprints if it won power in 2020? What will be the approach? Because you don't seem to believe in what is going on, even though the committee shows us some results. And I don't know if any one of you has followed a very sad spectacle that a member of the Vanguard, Operation Vanguard team, a police officer, has actually lodged a complaint against another member of the team who is a military person. And his allegation is that this officer pockets as much as 45,000 cedis bi-weekly. And we understand that there's supposed to be an investigation into this petition. It's actually a petition that has been sent by a member of the committee of the Operation Vanguard against another member of the Operation Vanguard.
We've heard here that a minute before the deputy AG can look. Samson, I have seen a court order ordering a member of the Operation Vanguard team to return a vehicle that he appropriated illegally after it was seized from illegal miners.
Okay.
And the reports ran into thousands. That is not just excavators that go missing.
It's big.
That when they seize property, they appropriate it and then sell.
Okay. So this is a petition by David Jokoto, and he did it and copied it to the commanding officer of the Operation Vanguard team of Boise and to the chairman, the Interministerial Committee of Illegal Mining at the Jubilee House. So what exactly is going on after he filed this? We understand the committee has been set up. Maybe the Interministerial Committee will want us to know a lot more about what is going on. Because if they take action and sanction this particular officer, we should get to know, and it will inspire a lot more people to report. Benka, I don't know if you can start on this note. The Mining Act, as amended, may be a cure to the missing excavators. Felix made a reference. That act says when you seize this equipment, you have seized evidence of crime. Hand it over to the police for the purposes of the prosecution that must follow or the legal action that must follow. Don't you think it is because we are not giving them to the custody of the police but putting them at DCE's bungalows that's giving rise to missing in transit?
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to tackle a particular issue before I move to the main and germane issue. You see, there's this issue you just spoke about, one member of the Operation Vanguard reporting the other. It is the reason why I totally support that there will be an amendment to the Office of the Special Prosecutors Act to let us criminalize unexplained wealth. It is the reason.
Yeah.
Because if you are a member of Galamsey task force, and maybe within a year you have 3 houses and a number of cars, and we have this as law, we will have to come to you.
If you're a minister, if you're a judge,
yeah, absolutely.
If you're a journalist, you must explain the source of your
wealth. The
wealth.
burden will shift. But we haven't criminalized it. And so most of these things may go the way they are going until we are able to work on this. And I know that the special prosecutor is very committed to this. I've had discussions with him. He stated this time and again. And the commitment is there to push it through.
But when you put Operation Vanguard people aside, the people who declare their assets, the law is very clear. Once they have declared their assets and they have made acquisitions, people should be able to make complaints to Shraj. And without a criminal process, Shraj is supposed to go to court and to confiscate those assets that they will not be able to explain unless they can show the source of money, if it's a gift or anything. This is supposed to apply to those who declare assets, ministers, you know, and all of that.
But even that explanation is those are civil consequences. But I'm talking about criminal consequences.
We don't use the declarations are secret.
Let me put this in perspective. You see, even that is a civil solution. But I'm talking about criminal consequences.
Yeah, but I'm saying even that one we haven't tried using.
Even a civil one.
I agree. But that may be a problem that we've encountered over the years.
Okay.
Yes. But let me come back to the vexed issue of Galamsey, as we have discussed.
And start with my question.
I will again, I'll soon answer your question as I drive on. Samson, in 2017, in this studio, I made a categorical statement that if care was not taken, we're on our way to committing mass suicide. I made that statement before you here. And that was with respect to Galamsey. Mass suicide. I stated this in 2017. And I hold the view that Galamsey is the surest key to killing all of us. I still maintain that view. But you see, having listened to my 3 colleagues, I come to one very, very disturbing conclusion, which should not be at all. There's so much cynicism. There's so much pessimism.
Is there a basis for it?
And it appears to me, from the presentations I've heard, that we are virtually at the point of an apocalypse in this country. As if we are all joining hands to throw it up in the skies in despair that we've come to a point of no return, which I don't agree with at all. You see, if you listen, again, I want us to look at what you did say about His Excellency the President as candidate Nana Addo and His Excellency the President Nana Addo. Samson, you are a lawyer, and not just any lawyer. In my estimation, a very good one at that. But you don't take statements of people, parts of it, and then be able to digest it. It's like constitutional interpretation, that you take a clause from a whole article, and then you make meaning out of that clause alone without reading the article as a whole. You see, the context he made did not mean that he was saying, when I come into office, Galamsey will be allowed. That was not the meaning at all. And you took him out of context. You see, Galamsey itself is an illegal activity. So no one can tell you that when I become president, I will allow you to do illegal activities. It's like saying that people are engaged in robbery and you are campaigning and say, when I become president, I will not stop robbery. What is criminal is criminal. So he made it within a certain context. And what was the policy of the New Patriotic Party at the time? The policy was, when we got power, we're going to regularize some of these Galamseyers into small-scale mining groups and empower them to engage in legal activities. But not that he was saying that he will allow Galamsey to go on. Please, that word Galamsey itself is an illegal activity and cannot be allowed to perpetuate. Nobody can sit down and say that, for me, I am allowing Galamsey. Because it's an illegal activity, it's an unlawful activity.
In that statement, he said, I have heard, or you have heard, that it's being said that when you vote me, I will stop Galamsey. That is a lie perpetrated by the NDC. That's what the president said.
That's why I'm putting it within a very strict context. That he said that, yes, this is Galamsey you are doing. They are saying that I will stop it. But this is what I'm going to. But I'm saying that.
It's a lie. He said it's a lie.
Hold on.
I will stop Galamsey.
Hold on. You see, that was not
all
I think
we should progress to after candidature.
Yes.
Because when he has become president, we have no question about what he wants to do.
In that speech that he delivered, you are quoting, you didn't play the entire tape of what he said in that program. You picked a portion of it.
You know we don't play entire
tapes.
Yes,
of course. Yes, but if you pick that portion, you wouldn't know what was the precedence, what he said before and what he said thereafter. In clarification.
That's fair.
Because I think that it would be unfair to pigeonhole him into just that portion, because you don't know what happened before or after.
That's right.
But you see, after he became president, and I differ strongly from what Felix actually adumbrated in this particular program, it was not just because of pressure from public interest organizations. It was not because of that.
It was not your plan.
There was a personal commitment on the part of the president.
No, but there was no plan. Because if you check the vetting of Peter Mewu before Parliament, the plan was different. It had nothing to do with what the president then hijacked, which is a good thing that we all applaud. That you back the media campaign with the awesome coercive powers of the state. That's the only way it works.
And indeed. But that's what exactly we are discussing now. Three things. First, you must have a policy. Second, the policy must be implemented properly to lead to desired goals.
Right.
And thirdly, you must have a legal regime that will tackle it in the event of problems arising as a result of implementation of your policies.
Right.
Basically, that's what you do. So what did His Excellency the President do? After making such very strong statements and speeches about Galamsey and his intentions about it, he moved a step further to put together the Interministerial Committee against illegal mining. And you may have, again, something. I want us to put something in perspective once more. That is what the good old Professor Frimpong Boateng said. He was taken out of context. And I'll demonstrate that shortly. You see, the excavators he spoke about that got missing were excavators that were seized at the very beginning of the fight. And those ones were left at certain assemblies. But thereafter, and that is why the secretary indicated it, thereafter it changed. Seized excavators no longer go to district assemblies. That is why they have 3 depots in the country, in Accra, in Obuasi, and in Takwa, where these things are kept. The other difficulty I want you to note is that we may have to find a way of getting the police to have custody of these things where they are kept. Because there will be a problem if you are going to say that hand them over to the police, because they themselves will not be able to.
No, that's what the law says.
Yes.
That's hand them over to them to keep as evidence
hold it.
to prosecute the crime.
I agree with you, but I'm saying that look, if
You are
something is in the
suggesting we
custody,
should redefine that process. And I'm saying the law says
no,
do it this way.
I'm
Why?
not saying we are redefining it.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. If the police, we seize about 100 excavators,
Right.
and we tell the police that these are the excavators, they are your custody and possession, but you don't have space. We are keeping them.
You don't
here.
need space.
Hold on.
You don't need space.
Hold on. They are being kept here. Take custody.
Right.
Put your men there. Be in charge. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's still in their custody and possession and control. There's nothing wrong with it. So until it is established to me beyond a shred of doubt that where these excavators are kept are not in control of the police, you cannot say that they are not in the possession and custody of the police. Because being in possession and custody of the police does not necessarily mean parking them at the police station. That is not the meaning.
Okay.
Because you see, in the first place, are you going to have enough spaces at the various police stations to have excavators parked there? No. So there ought to be a place. The only thing you may have to argue is that there should be a coordinated approach in such a way that they have direct control over wherever these excavators are kept.
Right.
But Samson, again, when I listened to Felix, it appeared to me as if I was listening to a PNC man or CPP or DPP or any other political party. Normally, if you know my style, I don't go on very good programs like this.
So explain.
And try to do politics and those things. Because the people listening to
Explain
us
what
are
you
very
want to
discerning.
understand.
Do small.
You see,
You explain.
they had the opportunity of being in power for 8 years. The vigorous campaign that was launched by us to fight Galamsey was as a result of the spillover of what happened in 2016. Those excavators did not fly into Ghana in 2017.
You know that in their regime,
They did not
excavators
fly.
were bent. Do you know that?
Hold it. Have you listened carefully to my learned senior Husseini
Yes.
and what he stated about the fight against Galamsey
Yes, he's my
during their
reference.
era?
Yeah. About the difficulties.
Of course, have you listened to him?
So they were fighting, but they had
But
difficulties.
let me tell you, never
Definitely not on the scale that
in
we
the
are seeing
recent
now.
history, in the recent history, you cannot debate it that there has been a very massive fight against it. And you see, where you have, excuse me to say, people who are of a certain stature engage in certain activities, and you are fighting that process, it becomes very difficult and complex. You know, he stated about the involvement of persons. In fact, as a lawyer, I don't have any evidence to that effect.
There is evidence. I have evidence.
I
of
don't
that.
have any evidence that there's a high-ranking person who is directly involved.
There is evidence of that. Some of
All
them is
the
already
evidence I
public.
have is evidence of rumor.
Beyond rumor.
Beyond rumor, I don't have a concrete evidence that a high-ranking official has been engaged in Galamsey. But that's not the point.
What Professor Frimpong Boateng explains is that they may be engaged in small-scale mining allowed by law.
Sure.
But not Galamsey.
So, for example, if you realize that there's a top official who is making money from mining, and then you go into investigate and realize that the person has license, what offense has he committed? But if you can establish that the person is engaged in illegal activity, it's an offense, and nothing prevents you from walking to the nearest police station to provide evidence for the person to be arrested. And remember that to actually make things very, very serious, the legal regime, very serious, to ensure that people who perpetrate this suffer penal consequences, the law has been amended. You are aware that you could walk into jail for up to 15 years if you are convicted by the amendment we did last year.
But if the people are not being put before court to get convicted, what's the use of the law?
No, but if they are arrested,
if the people are getting, as it were,
something across the country,
if they are getting nolli prosequi because it is dangerous to do that to China.
Samson, you isolate an incident and generalize.
But that's important.
Hold it. You see, every day, people are being arrested and put before court. People are being jailed. You see, the only problem you have...
No,
yes, people are being jailed.
Professor Frimpong doesn't agree with you.
No.
He has a problem with the prosecutorial process.
No.
He says they are arrested, they are put on bail, and then it seems it's the end of the story.
I sit on this chair, and I sit as Deputy Attorney General. And the evidence I have may be contrary to what you're talking about.
All right.
You see, the only reason why you don't seem to get it is that the majority of those who go into this jail are smaller fishes. That's the problem.
So where are the big fishes?
I'm coming to that. And I'll demonstrate it to you. You find that some people...
We must end this segment now, but can you give us some figures?
If I can just...
Can you give us some figures about the prosecutions and maybe
You have a situation where some young men are on vacation and they decide to go and look for something to go back to school. And they go and engage themselves in Galamsey. They are arrested and they are sent to court. They plead guilty. They are given some number of years in prison and all that. Nobody hears of it.
Because the big fishes are still...
About how many of them do we have?
But I'll make reference to something, which is a problem that is systemic, that all of us need to tackle.
Please, you must conclude in 30 seconds.
I don't know, Samson, you've read this book. The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet.
You are a vociferous reader.
The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet.
Very important point, 1 second.
And I'm just landing.
Yes, do.
You see, there's a proverbial fishing net in The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, thrown into the sea, catches smaller fishes. The bigger ones pass through the holes.
That can happen.
But that should not be. And that's why His Excellency the President has declared this war. He's put in place all the necessary things. Operation Vanguard, Interministerial Committee, robust laws and amendments.
Give me 1 minute.
Let's applaud the President.
I'm not sure that 1 minute is
any
enough.
Plans? 1 minute.
I'm not sure 1 minute. I'm not sure 1 minute is enough.
Yeah, go ahead.
But if you want,
summarize. Give us a list. Give us a list of what you do.
You see, first of all, people go into Galamsey knowing pretty well that it's a very dangerous trade because of some push factors. There are young people who are unemployed, who find it attractive. Perhaps they think that it's a quick way to make money.
Yeah.
So to address it holistically, you need to give alternative livelihoods.
Do you have a plan?
Oh, of course, we have a plan. It's just unfortunate that this time will be too short for me to elaborate. But in the fullness of time, we'll come out with it. Again, finally, before Mr. Bento comes in. Again, I don't know why Mr. Penka feels that the record of the NDC, or the lack of it, is a justification for this shambolic approach to the fight against Galamsey. Assuming that we did nothing. And Galamsey has been going on at least since the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. So, and in between that, the NDC was also in power for 8 years.
Thank you.
Before the NDC came. So I'm not sure where that line.
Just a minute, and you give us a minute of what you think should be done.
District chief executives in every district in this country are the chairpersons of the district mining committees.
That's right.
They energize and supervise mining. And they are also chairpersons of district security committees.
Right.
If any breach or infraction happens there, they are responsible. It is not possible that we continue to have this problem and district chief executives are not paying the price for it.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Going forward, I think the first thing we have to do is to ensure that the MMIP is enrolled, is launched, so that we follow the processes that we've put in place in the document. And then number two, the National Association of Small Scale Miners also, we have our regulation policies that we put across, and we'll engage with the district assemblies to be able to sanitize the system at the grassroots level. But the last one I have is we want to know who is in charge of the mining space. Is it the Interministerial Committee, the Minerals Commission, or the Lands and Natural Resources Committee? Because there's clear confusion there. And licenses that were issued in 2016 have been declared null and void in publication by the Interministerial Committee. We petitioned the minister. There is only the minister that can revoke the license issued. So we are still waiting for him to act on that. If not, all the miners, including the concerned miners, the Eastern miners, we are all coming together to find a way out of
Thank you very much. I'll share a couple of text messages with you. We take a break. When we return, the panel will be reconstituted and we'll look at questions of the IPAC meeting with the eminent advisory committee that appears to have been held on a boxing ring. And then the NPP seeking to protect newer and the older. Some actually say it will be suicidal if they are not protected or anybody is allowed to contest them. That's Chairman Sabonsu. The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament also wants similar protection. They are saying that if things don't happen, it is the NPP that will lose. But political scientists disagree with some of them. Okay, so I had mentioned about the petition, which is already public by one Operation Vanguard member against another member. I think, from what I know, that this petitioner deserves special protection. Otherwise, I don't know how the team can continue at this time when the investigation has not, as it were, commenced and concluded. A couple of messages here. Okay. So you would remember that Abdul Malik Kwekubako had said on this show earlier, making an appeal to the president to take out party elements from the machinery set up to fight Galamsey. He said this on Newsfile, and he is repeating the same this morning. Kwame Esiedusapon says, we need to pause the talk and judge all the Galamsey fight on outcomes. What is the state of our forest and river bodies now? Have their quality, viability, and vitality gotten better, worse, or remain the same? My view is this politicization of environmental degradation is why powerful, politically exposed people are holding us all to ransom. It is very sad. A miner says that the military personnel posted on Vanguard now say the Galamsey operation is now their Lebanon. It's now their Lebanon, to which their UN mission, which usually gave them some few dollars. So what shall we expect? I'll return to read a lot more messages on the Galamsey matter to you. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Of course, in our first segment, and which has taken most of the time because that was deliberately for that purpose, was to ensure that we are helping the discussion that is critical to saving our environment, our forest, and our water bodies. And when I got to know sometime a couple of years ago that actually when there is a change in power, you know, party people, chairmen and others actually go to places and seize and take concessions by themselves and start working. I was like, really? How can this happen in the constitutional democratic Ghana? All right, a couple of messages here. Solomon also, that, you know, campaigner who asked Osafuma for that question that brought out Aisha Huang's matter, is sending us a message from Denver in Colorado, USA. He says the beautiful ones are not yet born is not the answer to the question something asked you, Kwenka.
Absolutely.
How,
that net is a
how
bad net.
do the keys for the missing excavators get to, get away and get the people to take the seized equipment away? That is very critical. But for collusion, this will not be happening. Samuel Brian Boabing, sending from Awoshi, but he is a presidential appointee. He says that President Akufo-Addo is still committed to the fight against illegal mining, and every appointee who is not committed shouldn't impede the process. The president should, with immediate effect, dissolve Operation Vanguard. Professor Frimpong Boateng and the Interministerial Committee members must step aside and be made to account for their stewardship so far. Then a more competent body should be reconstituted with men and women who are not easily compromised. Those who share the president's ideals or ideas will and with unbridled passion to serve Mother Ghana are those we need. Okay, so
angels.
If this is coming from the Jubilee House, then obviously it tells you that
there's fire on the mountain.
Okay, just a couple more of those messages. Musa Abattoir is sending this from Kumasi, and he says the government has totally lost the fight from day one. What happened to Charles Bissiou when he was caught by Anas Arameyaw Anas collecting money? Now we are told excavators that were impounded during the exercise have vanished. Efo Newton from Mankranso says it is now crystal clear that the president is only talking the walk with this Galamsey issue. The missing excavators is a colossal testament of massive chop-chop and gross corruption that is gross in the government. Benjamin Osei Jamra in Edinburgh in the UK says that the fight against Galamsey is very difficult one. Everybody, including those of you in the studio, are involved.
Oh.
Yes. Oh. Nana Kwame sent in this one. Nana Kwame, okay, okay, your message is not rolling. So thank you very much. I think we can pause on the Galamsey matter at this point, even though I have tons and tons of messages coming in from you on the Galamsey issue. So, the political parties, as you know, are divided over whether or not the Electoral Commission should roll out a new system. It's not just a register, a new system for election 2020. You are aware of the demonstrations that have happened, the explanations that have come from the EC, and right here on Newsfile, our very first edition, the EC was unequivocal. The decision is sealed. It's a done deal. So what is all the noise about? They managed to get the EC's EC's eminent advisory committee to hold a meeting with the EC to listen to these other voices to see if something can happen. Unfortunately, 6 hours of meeting, or almost 7 hours, ended with no results. How did that happen? Let's listen to Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo after that meeting, Esiedun Ketia after that meeting, and then Boabing Samoa after that meeting.
So independent candidates have no role. But we agreed to relax the rules from the beginning so that we could allow any stakeholder present to make their presentation. Unfortunately, after the independent presidential candidate made a presentation, the civil society group were denied the opportunity to make their own presentation. Be that as it may, we have come to very important conclusions the Committee for Eminent Persons assured us that they have heard all the presentations. They believe that each side has made a very reasonable contributions, and so they are going to formulate their advice and then present it to the Electoral Commission with inputs from everything that has been said here. Apart from that, they gave the opportunity that their doors are still open to receive any memos, petitions, or any write-ups of any nature, so they can take all those into consideration when they are advising the Electoral Commission. It must be said.
Do we know when this advice will come? Do we know when the advice will come?
Well, we have no idea, but our protest will continue.
The Electoral Commission did their presentation, both technical and financial reasons presentation. At the end of the day, what has come to light is that none of the issues that were raised spoke against the data of the Electoral Commission. Yes. So as far as we are concerned, all the other things that the Electoral Commission want to do can be done without compiling a new data. Because we asked the Electoral Commission technical person whether the data is credible or not credible. And he could not tell us that the data is not credible, because the Electoral Commission has conducted elections with this data as late as December last year. And for that matter, we believe that all the other things that they want to do can be done without necessarily going back to touch the data through a new registration. The bombshell the Electoral Commissioner presentation dropped was that the voter register will be ready by the 8th of November 2020. 3 weeks to election. 3 weeks to election. And we are saying that if you have to compile a new register, go through all the processes, and the register will be ready by 8th of November, less than 1 month to the election, then of course it means that this register cannot be used for election 2020.
So I'm assuming that the eminent persons or otherwise intend to carry on a process, which is how they concluded. They've issued a communique saying that they will continue their debates and their discussions. As to whether they achieved what they wanted to achieve, I can't tell.
But for the political party, would you say that you achieved consensus as far as the creation of a new register is concerned?
What is consensus? Because at least from my count, 10 political parties say yes to a register, 6 say no, 2 were neutral. So is that consensus? The NDC has given the impression that a coalition of political parties, a coalition. So they are playing a numbers game here. A coalition of political parties don't want a new register. And they've gone around having demonstrations and pseudo demonstrations with this coalition. When we came here, 18 political parties spoke. So if it is a numbers game, 10 of those political parties say they want a new register. 6 sided with the NDC, including the NDC itself. 2 say that they are going to go with the decision of the EC. Now, whatever the EC says they will do is what they will also follow. So, if assuming the EC...
Right, so when it's election time, then you get to know that there are 18 political parties in Ghana. And particularly when there are troubles at IPAC, that's where you see that there are more political parties than NDC, MPP, and
to be
PNC.
fair, there are no 18 political parties in Ghana. It's not true, not even in law.
Oh, they are
most of them are going to be. No, the EC currently has a court order to make sure that the accounts and other things of those political parties are in place or expand them. That is its legal mandate, and it is duty bound to do so.
Yes, you were involved in that suit, but they haven't done it.
They haven't done it.
They are still there. Check their website.
But I'm saying those political are illegal entities parading as such, and we shouldn't be invoking them.
We know most of them. It's a one-man party.
Yeah,
and the parties find a way of the 2 parties find a way of getting them on their side.
You know,
so it depends on how deep your pocket is. You can get them to support you for IPAC. Yes. So why? We have an EC which has given us sufficient reasons why the current system should be jettisoned, and they are introducing something that's going to give us savings of over 173 million Ghana cedis. And you, the CSOs who are against it, you were not giving the opportunity at this IPAC meeting, and you are not happy. Why?
Because all you said, you just sang from the EC's hymn book. And that hymn book is what they've been trying to push to people, and it's not working. One, that they've given sufficient reasons. There has never been any time in a room of people who understand this thing where the EC has been able to sufficiently explain. Never. It never happened. And I say here, the EC will never be able to explain why it must do what it is purporting to do to a room of IT experts. It can't happen.
You are simply refusing to listen?
No, we've listened.
Even at this almost 7-hour meeting, they didn't justify this?
You see, Samson, I am saying they've tried it consistently and they failed. That tells you that it is just not doable. It's like somebody coming to tell you that, Charlie, the sun rises from the west. It's not possible to explain. So that's number one. And the second thing you were saying is that what? They have
saving costs.
The saving costs. The numbers don't add up. Look, let me put it in very simple terms. If you say, I am going to register 17 million people, and it's going to be cheaper than me registering 2 million people, it does not make sense. And the only reason why the EC is saying so, and I'm trying to avoid the technical conclusion, is that, oh, somebody told us that if we did everything, they will charge us less. Please, excuse me. You can go and find out exactly how much it costs per person and all those things. Because mathematically, it cannot be that today, if you are registering 17 million people, it will be cheaper than if you are registering 2 million people. You tell that to the Marines, not to a room of intelligent people. So look, we've been there, gone through the numbers. If we want to, we will go through them again, but I'm making the point. The EC's consistent failure to convince people who are not even IT experts tells you that there's something wrong with that approach. And we are saying, look, seriously, there are other ways to do that and be sure. One other thing that I'm going to say here, which is important to me because maybe in the scheme of things we will not be able to conclude everything, is this. Everywhere that new biometric systems have been introduced, they have had major problems. We've done that, we've listed them, we can tell you. So what they're even purporting to do, if we all go to sleep and they do it, the fact on the ground, the experiential evidence across the world is that if even they do it, we will have massive problems and would have spent money to buy trouble.
You have been saying that they should be upgrading, you know, the system because that's a cheaper way and easier to do, and you don't need to go over all the thing. But they have thrown the question back at you. Which of the components of the system are they going to upgrade? They are telling you some of these have become all useless in their own words, and that in the elections they have had to do, they had to cannibalize some of these, you know, machines to be able to get something that's credible. So if you are asking them to do that, you are actually setting them up to fail, and then you attack them at the same time. Because as far as they are concerned, this system will collapse on them if they used it.
So again, the facts don't bear them up. We are not telling the EC to upgrade their systems. The EC itself constituted a proper committee to look at their systems and advise them. And they were advised that given what you are running, the best way, international best practice, is to continually improve the system. There are 7 main parts of the system. The best way I can explain it under these circumstances, look at your bank. Your bank, my bank has had my data for over 20 years. That data doesn't change because my name doesn't change. That data is sitting somewhere in a database. I use the ATM, okay? Now, I use my phone. I can go to the bank counter, all right? When I travel elsewhere, I'm able to use that system. Now, the EC has a very similar system. What the EC is telling you is that, oh, you use the ATM and the ATMs have problems. Because of that, we should change the ATMs, change the banking software, change the computers being used in the bank, change the data, change the data centers where the information is held. How does that make sense? When you have 7 parts of a system, very complex system, and even if one part is not working, how do you go and rip up the rest of the parts? By the way, the information we have, the data itself, is not corrupted. We just used it 2 months or so ago. So, first point, the EC itself...
You have hardware which is at end of use.
I can tell you again that it is not true. The fact that
some obsolete.
It's not true. And that's why I'm saying the EC can't explain itself. 2016, they spent $40 million buying equipment. As late as 2018, the EC bought new equipment. Look, this laptop, okay, is in its 3rd year. I use it for about 10 hours a day. It has fingerprint and all those things. It's still good. The EC does elections once every 4 years. Have you seen the equipment they use? The robustness of those pieces of equipment? It doesn't mean they don't get damaged. And when you say you cannibalize a laptop, they didn't do any such thing. Look, the EC cannot come and tell us that what is an objective fact, it's subjective to they alone. Where are all those laptops? Where are all those pieces of equipment? And we are saying you yourself have been doing continuous improvement across the ages. The EC in the last 10 years has spent about $250 million on buying equipment. Who does that?
They have said,
who does that?
Outdated and unsupported software have several vulnerabilities that can be capitalized on by mischief makers, leading to potential data loss. That is, if you're asking them to try and migrate the data, you know, by way of, as if they are not throwing away what they already have, they will lose data. If they do, you be the same person come to blame them.
Again, the facts. Which software are they talking about? Is it the software as in the database holding the thing, or they're talking about the ABIS? Are they talking about the core software that checks and authenticates the systems? Is that what they're talking about? Or the softwares on the laptops? Or the softwares running the hardware system? Or the softwares running their communication systems? Which software are they talking about? Whichever software they're talking about, there is somebody who made that software. There will even be options to that software. They can absolutely go back. The STL group that they bought it from do not write software. They buy it from other people. If your contract with STL is over, you can go get that other thing.
Because the it's a proprietary software, they have been locked in. Again, you know that.
We used the system just about 2 months ago. Who locked who in? And why would anybody lock in our data? If even that were true, all they will want is for you to pay them so you use it because it's our data. I'm not talking about the fact that the explanation of how we got to that itself is a mystery. But as an institution, spending over $200 million on IT equipment cannot be justified, especially when you come and tell us that we should yank all of that and throw it away, when it is not possible to justify to a room of intelligent people that you need to do that. On the other hand, if you could just go and do what your own committee has told you to do, we'll be spending in the region of $20 million. We will upgrade this system and make it sufficient to use for the next election. Number 3, if even the EC did what they are purporting to do, and I can give you, they can go and check. If they try to do what, in Nigeria, their first implementation, 2011, it was a mess. In Kenya, it was so bad, they abandoned the whole system and went on a different way. In Tanzania, they deployed in 2015, it was a mess. In Afghanistan, it was a total shutdown. They had to fly people in to try and resolve the situation. What I'm saying is that even in the best case, when you do, and in Ghana we had the same situation. Yeah, the first time. You read the first time we had the same situation, yes. And later we had to recalibrate and go back. If they try it, they will be sending us into trouble. So look, whichever way you look at this thing, it doesn't make sense. And please, the EC does not have a monopoly on
so why are you, the
CSOs,
not happy that at this particular important meeting, you were not giving the opportunity to speak? And I hear Johnson Siedinkete and the others also saying, why did they have to give a previous independent candidate, that is Joy, the opportunity to speak, rather than, that's Jacob Osei-Yeboah,
again,
rather than the CSOs?
Again, with all due respect to the EC, they seem to be playing these games. Yeah. When we had our first meeting with them, we intentionally wrote to them and said, we don't want you to come and just talk down to us. Yes. We want to have a discussion. We go into the meeting, they are an hour late, they come in and they set up a series of presentations, totally pointless. When they knew we were scheduled for some other thing. Then when we ask, can we have a discussion? Say, you can only ask one question. What kind of thing is that? Then you go for this meeting. They declared here that their minds were made up. They were going to go ahead and do whatever they wanted to do. Look, civil society organizations are citizens. We occupy the office of the citizen. It is for us that they do what they do. They answer to us. We have no executive power, but the office of the citizen is more important than the office of the president.
Is it 18 or 20 watts of you, civil society?
18 of us signed, but we're more than 20.
Yeah, you may be that number, but the key stakeholders, so to speak, are the political parties. So they should be dealing with the political parties.
Even if you are dealing with the key stakeholders, we're not talking about 20 political parties here. There are 2 main political parties in this country and others. And if you deal with the two main political parties, you will find sensible enough reason on both sides. So you have to subject it. This is a technical matter to expertise, proper, and take advice. Okay, if we had time, we'll go through why. But the EC should not be making this decision. Listen, the EC is an elections commission.
Independent elections
commission. It is independent elections commission, but it is subject to law.
The Constitution says it's not subject to the direction and control of anybody. It is apart from the Constitution.
It is subject to the Constitution, and in 296 it says that you shall make your decisions candidly, shall be open, and all those other. The EC cannot tomorrow come and tell us that at the next election we should all line up behind our candidates. Yeah. They can't. They can't operate outside the law. Now the EC does not have inherent IT expertise, and the EC clearly does not have a right to give us a bill of $150 million for something that they cannot justify.
So all of this, are we not wasting time really? The last time we spent the whole show discussing the issue, and before we ended, we had like a minute or two to end the show. And I asked the EC's commissioner, one of them who was here, and he said, it's done deal. One of the directors, he said it's done. So what is all this for?
The EC can choose
not to. They are going ahead. So what is it?
There are so many options between a right to information, between a legal challenge and other things. It can be stopped.
They are rolling out in April. They are going ahead.
My point is, look, I work in a civil society organization. If I wanted to make executive power, I will seek PEMQuest's job or some other executive job. Our job is to shine the light, is to show those who have to exercise their authority on our behalf. That if you are doing this and it's wrong, we are telling you it's wrong. They can choose to go ahead. Everybody and anybody who understands this thing knows that we are running to waste money, and the EC is pretending it has the legal and moral right to do so. It doesn't.
Okay. Felix, it's like seeking to impeach Trump in a Congress that, in a Senate that you don't have majority. It's a no-no from the start.
Something. There's no logical or technological, as Mr. Ventil and his colleagues have rightly demonstrated over this period, reason why the EC wants to compile a new register. And I will be blunt with you. Look, I think two things account for their decision. First, there's a political motive. And then somebody has their eyes on procurement. Those are the two reasons why the EC is going ahead to do this. Because it makes no sense, with the greatest respect to them, what they are doing. You don't waste 440 million Ghana cedis on a process that is not required. The fundamental point, the fundamental question the EC must answer is that today, the register that sits in their archives, in their systems, is it fit for purpose or not? If elections were held today with that register, would the outcome be deemed credible? I would answer for them, it is yes. Because only 2 months or so ago, I went to Brafoyao in the Abu Asebu Kwamankese district and voted in the district assembly elections. I did so. Indeed, I took the pains to go around a number of centers to find out whether they had met with any challenge to the equipment. And everywhere I went, they answered in the negative. They said the systems were working fine. There were no issues with the network. The equipment had not broken down. The rate of failure was very, very minimal, as the EC itself disclosed a while ago, that only 0.6%. And there are places like India, which are supposed to have more advanced systems than ours. That record about 4% rate of failure.
Internationally, 1.8
Absolutely.
is acceptable.
So there's no earthly reason for a new register. Why? In 2016, this register produced the current president. And in as much as we disagree fundamentally with the governance of President Akufo-Addo, we respect the fact that he was legitimately elected. So one cannot put a finger on any reason why the EC is doing it, other than political. And I say political because, look, the attack on this register started before the 2016 elections. The New Patriotic Party is on record to have launched an unjustifiable, baseless attack on the register. The current vice president held a press conference and claimed that he had over 700,000 names of people who were not supposed to be on the register because they were foreigners. When they were doing so, they were targeting a certain part of this country with a view to achieving voter suppression. He claimed that he had 10% of the evidence. and that he will furnish the country later with the additional 90%. In fact, you recall that there was a committee under the chairmanship of the late VCA RC Crab that requested for that additional 90% information, which never came. The register was a subject of a litigation, which we believe was sponsored by the New Patriotic Party. They used Abu Ramadan. All the lawyers in that case were MPP lawyers. Nobody can run away from the fact that it was an MPP instigated case.
But what's the problem with that?
There's no problem. But I'm making the point that they tested their case in court also. The outcome was that the register was credible. There was an order for the deletion of some names. Even then, there was no conclusive evidence that the people should not be there. It was speculative in that they said they used NHIS cards, so maybe they could be foreigners.
Which was not allowed by the law.
In any event, those people were allowed opportunity to re-register using the right documentation.
Exactly.
So a legal process was initiated to test the validity, the legitimacy of that register, and it passed. Elections were held. The MPP has never stopped wasting our years with the fact that they won by 1 million votes. We have a president who has gone on to set up a government that is operating legitimately. In December, when the disassembly elections were held, 6,000 assemblymen who were sworn in about a week or so ago were elected. 35,000 unit committee members, all deemed validly and legally elected, came out of that process. On what basis, therefore, does the entity that supervised all of this come out to tell us that there's a need to replace this register?
In fact, we would have done a referendum using the
Absolutely,
same.
but for the contestation.
You have given someone a job.
Yes.
To do a credible job. This is a very important job that can plunge this country, when there's a mistake, into chaos. He has assessed the tools he has, and he says this is the path that can guarantee a credible result. You are fighting that person.
No.
How does that work?
You see,
if they went ahead with what you are insisting and there was trouble, will you tend to blame them again?
Samson, on the evidence of all that I've told you, there will be no trouble. The only trouble that is impending is being courted by the EC at the instigation of what I believe to be political masters. That's why I spoke about political motive. Look, the president of this country, Nana Akufo-Addo, in the heat of the debate about the Ghana card, launched yet another attack on the very register that elected him. In other words, he accepts the mandate that he derived from the register, but is unwilling to accept the validity of the register. Such a bizarre situation. Again, you need to consider the circumstances under which the current leadership of the EC came to. No, I beg your pardon.
It's the EC that is telling us the challenges they have.
So I'm telling you that there is a political motive. In the absence of any technologically superior argument, in the absence of any logical argument that is acceptable to reasonable-minded people, I say they are doing this for political reasons.
That you are not buying the argument doesn't mean they are not logical.
But why? The arguments have been held in the public. We have all heard them. Anytime an EC official has attempted a response, it has ended disastrously. Everybody who reasons carefully, who is open-minded, will tell you that the arguments do not make sense. Once the president indicated that he thought that holders of the voters' ID card could have a number of foreigners amongst them, the EC perceived that as an order to compile a new register. That is why we are where we are. So the sudden acceptance of that deeply flawed, unsubstantiated position by the MPP on the register is what has left us where we are. And we believe strongly that all this is aimed at voter suppression. What they want is to have a register that at all costs has been compiled under an NPP government, so they can use state machinery to frustrate the process to the detriment of opposing political parties. That is what is at the heart of this and nothing more. It is a reason why they are struggling to marshal any cogent arguments on the matter. Because, Samson, you see, elections are not just rigged at the polling station on election day. The processes leading up to it are as important as the final event and its outcome. In the Ghana card registration, if you go to Abu Asebu Kwamankese now, there are places where you have about 300 residents who queue to vote, and in a day, only 2 or 10 of them are registered. Yet there are other places that you know are dominated by MPP folk, and they get 300 people registered. So the process can be used to frustrate voters and make it difficult for them to register. In addition to this, I'm sure you've heard the EC itself say that they will not even roll out in all polling stations. They will set up about 8,000 or so. That means that about 3 different polling stations would have to be collapsed into one. Further frustration for the voter. Added onto this is the fact that they will be coming out of another registration process, the NIA registration. So even voter fatigue with registration and frustration can get people to stay away from the process. And I believe all those calculations are fitting into this agenda to compile an entirely needless register. Something. Again, look at the mischief that the EC is playing. You know that at yesterday's meeting, I have spoken to our representatives. This morning, the Inter-Party Resistance Against the Compilation of a New Register has issued a statement. I don't know whether you've seen it.
Yeah, I have it.
In which they indicate that at the end of the meeting, a communique was agreed on. It was read to everybody's hearing. And the understanding was that it will be issued minutes after the meeting was over. That communique has not come out. Instead, we've had a statement from the EC's Public Affairs Directorate, which completely misrepresents the situation and says that more parties, 18 parties or so, agreed with the process. And Mr. Benson rightly pointed out, look, apart from the MPP, NDC, CPP, PNC, maybe APC and a few others, all the rest are shell organizations that are into political entrepreneurship. The likes of Kofi Apalo, I'm sure you know, he is the beneficiary of a $2 million contract from this government. You don't expect him to kick against something the government is in favor of. So let nobody insult the intelligence of Ghanaians by going to parade people who lack credibility to come and lend that credibility that they don't have to a process like this. But the substantive point I was making, the substantive point I'm making something is that what transpired at the meeting is not what has been put up by the EC. The meeting ended inconclusively. Indeed, we are told that but for the intervention of one of the respected clergymen at the meeting, blows would have been exchanged between some of the participants in the meeting. Again, even before this meeting was convened, the EC had gone ahead to set dates for the registration. Look, I have enormous respect for the membership of the Eminent Advisory Council. I think that they represent some of the best people we have in this country.
The statement by the committee is saying, in effect, that because of what you have spoken about, that in the view of this Inter-Party Resistance Committee, it is tantamount to gross disdain and disregard for the EC's own Eminent Advisory Committee and all stakeholders involved in the deliberations. This disdain follows the announcement of the date for the commencement of the registration exercise ahead of the dialogue of the matter requested for by the Eminent Advisory Committee. This we consider not only an act of bad faith to all the stakeholders, but also an act of utter disrespect to the EC's own establishment.
Yes, I was going to make the point that, look, I have respect for the membership of the committee. However, I have difficulty with their functional necessity. I don't think that the best role they can play is to tie their apron strings to that of the EC. They are best, they are going to represent our interests the best if they operated outside of the confines of the EC, so that when there are disputes, we can run to them to mediate. At this stage, they are a body under the control of the EC. So you realize that even their own statements are issued on the letterhead of the EC, which is highly irregular.
They are not under the control.
No, what I mean is that they are an advisory.
These eminent men and women cannot be controlled by the EC.
Don't take me out. I said that I respect their individual accomplishments. But in the current form, they are a body under the control of the EC. I'm not saying that individually.
They are not under the control.
No, but they are the advisory.
I think you should not be saying so.
No,
they are supposed to give advice. They are supposed to give advice. And you know that a body is not bound by advice.
Yes, but they are an advisory council of the EC.
Exactly.
That's the point I'm making. I'm saying that
they are better off for their work. Doesn't mean that they are controlled.
They are better off operating independent. In fact, political parties should be able to run to them on their own steam to come and mediate in conflict between them and the EC. In the current state in which they are composed, they appear to be a body aligned to the EC. It doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with what the EC is doing. You must get the delineations correctly. I am saying that the EC itself has not shown them respect.
I still think your characterization is not correct.
No. I'm saying, let me repeat it for emphasis, that these are accomplished men. Nobody can take away what they have done in this country and the respect they command in society. If the intention is to ensure that we have a body that can mediate in times of disputes between the EC and parties going into an election, that body does not have to come under the umbrella of the EC. Currently, they come under the umbrella of the EC. The very fact that their statements are on the letterhead of the EC is an indication that they are a creation of the EC and they come under the umbrella. I think that that situation is irregular and does not bode well for conflict resolution. That is why the EC is able to show them such contempt and disdain. By setting dates, even before they allow them to be able to take part in the process that leads to the resolution. Again, why is the EC being so dishonest in this endeavor? Why is the EC unable? Why is the EC unable to tell the truth?
My question really to you was: so
but
to what end?
But you see,
because they have set out dates, they are doing their procurement.
There are several ways. There are several ways in which the EC can be stopped. Look, there are countries, and I'm not. Then please don't take me out of context. We woke up one day in Burkina Faso, and the government was gone because citizens simply marched to some government institutions. Okay, in Hong Kong, they brought the entire country to a standstill for months because they disagree with particular provisions in laws that the leadership of the country has made. So they're thinking that the mere fact that the EC is independent enables them to do as they please without recourse to due process and common sense and logic is flawed. If citizens choose, they can make the work of the EC difficult. The inter-party resistance has indicated that they will be embarking on further demonstrations. That's not the only option available to them.
Yeah, so but the inter-party resistance says that in view of what they have spoken about as the EC has done, they were supposed to have issued a statement which was drafted together, agreed together. They didn't do that. They wrote their own thing.
To mislead the public.
And put up votes against another. They are saying that
Samson, the final point
they announced the escalation of their public manifestations and further declared that the Yempini march to the EC on Tuesday, the 4th of February 2020 will happen. We shall converge at Kawokudi Park, Accra, and march through Kanda to the EC and to the Liberation Circle, Children's Park. Let's all rally together to defend and protect our democracy and the integrity of our electoral process. Long live the resistance, long live Ghana, a luta continua. Signed by Comrade Bernard Mona on behalf of the inter-party resistance against the new register. So let me come to Dr. Ali Duseidu, who joined us in this second segment.
You see, look, it is important that the citizens of Ghana don't leave this to just political parties and CSOs. Because ultimately, it is their resources, the 440 million. Is their money that can be used to resolve some of the most pressing problems that we have as a country.
You have made that
point.
Yeah, that
and the EC should also not think that independence as enshrined in the Constitution clothes them with the power to do as they please. It is wrong. And they must care about their image and integrity. They are not there to ensure the election of a particular person.
Senior lecturer, Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. Thank you very much for joining this segment. And he's been listening and making notes copiously on his diary. But you see, it's interesting. When Charlotte Osei was in office, she sought to set up a committee that looks almost like this kind of committee that's been set up. The NDC was happy about it then. The NPP was angry. They didn't like it. Today, Jean Mensa has managed to set up a similar committee. He's talking about control and things that he's not excited about. But let's get to the issue. Having listened to all of that has gone on so far, do you really think that the political parties which are against it should continue because it may be an exercise in futility because the AC clearly says we're going ahead? We are independent.
I thank you so much, Samson, for the opportunity. I still think whatever means legal to them to be able to get what they want done from the EC, they should do it. One, I think the EC is created by the Constitution, and I think it should act in the interest of the state. So when we are looking at the interest of the state, it's about ensuring a credible voter register, credible process, and then an outcome that has integrity.
Right.
And I believe maybe most of the issues that they have been, the defense they have been putting up in support of the new voter register is tied to this whole concept of what? Doing their work in a very decent way that will lead to the betterment of the country. But I think where this action creates unnecessary tension, or not unnecessary, or create tension in the country, in the run-up to an election, the EC has to listen, to be honest with you. They have the mandate to conduct election. But there are several other stakeholders. I don't think political parties they are the key, but there are other stakeholders as well. CSOs are there, but even we, those who vote, we the people, even the constitution starts with what? We the people, we are very important, right? So what I do think is that, and what is the name? Strengthening process that can enhance dialogue is one of the best ways to go. And I remember when the EC announced the meeting that they had yesterday, sorry, the EAC announced the meeting that they had yesterday, the inter-party coalition against the new voters suspended the agitation with the hope that something good will come out from this process. But if they made a compromise, I think the other side should also be willing to make a little bit of a compromise so that we can see how best we can move this country forward. I think of all the issues that we've raised, I think timing is very crucial.
You know, it's a two position, like Professor H. Rempe will always say, the way we think in binary terms.
Yeah.
There's a group that says, we don't need a new one. What we need is upgrade the system and proceed. There's no a third position. So what's the compromise going to be about? So these guys go there and they say, jettison what you are trying to do. The EC2 tells them, jettison what you are trying to do.
So something, this I'm looking at it. Fine, even if we still need to do a new voter register, I think we should consider the timing. The EC can still use this register that they have used in all these elections. And after our December election, they will take their time, get stakeholder buy-in, and compile a new voter register that is robust and can be used.
Why do we complain about timing this time round, when this is not the first time we are going to do a new system in the election year?
I assume in the times that we had it didn't generate this whole lot of tension.
It did.
That we are having.
There's no new thing we have done that the opposition really supported.
So, but Samson, I still think there is an opportunity if we are willing to compromise our positions and seek a neutral position and move forward. Other than that, I think we'll be heading for disaster. I wouldn't be happy what's going to happen if we all take these interim positions. I think that's the beauty of democracy. That we can at least make compromises and then agree on something that will be beneficial to the country. I think political parties have their interests. Fine, they want power. The EC has an interest, maybe making the electoral processes better. There may be other interests that they may not state, and that we don't know. But at the end of the day, political parties want power because they want to better the lives of people in this country. EC want to conduct an election that will make this country better. So they should find a neutral ground. And I think more opportunity to dialogue can actually soften the stance and give people the opportunity to be able to behave.
Let's hear from information. You ask for a third role. There's some fact that we need to put out.
In Asantichi, they say, oh, yeah, Roya. Do you understand what that means?
This one fears this one. But let me put this out.
What is the fear about? What is it?
No. I think this is
what's
factual.
the mistrust about?
Hold on, I beg you. The EC put out numbers. We need to deal with the numbers. Exactly. The EC says that if they replace the whole system, it's going to cost us 74 million. And if we do the upgrade, it is going to cost us 56 million. There is a problem there. They want to add re-registration. Re-registration alone is 70 million. Exactly. So if you add the 70 million to the 74 million equipment, we are in 126 million. It's very important. Number two, if we upgrade, we would not do re-registration. And that is 56 million. Now, even if we do re-registration, the re-registration according to the EC will be 20 million. In other words, it is factually inaccurate that the EC says a replacement is cheaper. A replacement plus contingency will cost us 150 million. If we do not replace, but we upgrade to the latest and we do additional registration to top up whatever it is going to cost us less than 80 million. So that's the third rule. Even if we allow the EC to do what it's doing, its numbers don't add up.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Kwenka.
You know, I listened carefully again to my brothers, and particularly my brother I have so much respect for, Mr. Bentil. See, Mr. Bentil, you talked about the fact that EC had said that registering 2 million people was going to cost more than registering 17 million. That's not correct. And you said it here, and that's not correct. They were talking about a totality of the upgrading of the system and the re-registration, but not just the registration of the 2 million people alone. So let's put that in perspective.
That's
and
right.
I heard him categorically. Now, the other thing is this. what is strange is the vociferous manner with which some people are doing as though a new register will plunge this country into chaos. Since 92, how many times have we done new registers in this country? And after those new registers, the country was plunged into chaos. Why is the sudden pessimism? Why? The Electoral Commission, it is not in dispute by Article 46. It's not in dispute that they're supposed to do their work without direction or control of anybody. And we want to use demonstrations to let them do what we want. That's the path we want to tread.
When you were in opposition,
we are living in a country of laws, not a country of might and men.
We were talking and insisting on the independence of the Electoral Commission. Do you remember the things you said about its independence? Even Kufuor made a pronouncement about it. Why is it that when you're in government, you like to talk about the independence of the commission, but when you are not, then
Samson,
there's a problem?
I just want to make this point in its strongest terms. I've not developed my point.
All right.
But the most important thing is that we are living in a country of laws. If you think that what the Electoral Commission is doing is unconscionable and unlawful, you know where to go for a pronouncement. Not the streets, not inciting people. And even people have run into the realms of conjecture and speculation that when the new register is going to be done, there will be voter suppression in certain parts of the country. Anticipatory. And they have had their own convictions and all that, personal idiosyncrasies and thinkings, reading into the minds of the EC when there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. It's very interesting. You see, people are psyching up others, inciting them and preparing their minds not to accept a new register. We don't do that. We should look at it in a holistic manner based on the law, practice, and procedure, whether or not the action of the EC is contrary to any laid down rule or regulation known by all of us. If it is not and they are acting within their mandate, we support them. But you asked a very important question, and I'd like to emphasize that. You asked my brother Felix whether if there is chaos today as a result of an election, the blame will not be put on the EC. It will be squarely put on the EC.
But what chaos?
No, hold on. They are those who are manning the system. And they are telling you that, yes, you may have used it once or twice or thrice, but going forward, it is not going to serve the purpose any longer.
They actually say the periods that you say they use them for the district assembly elections and all, it nearly collapsed. You have no idea how they managed it.
It's not true, Samson.
That's what they are telling you.
I'm saying that, Samson. I'm telling them that.
Yeah, but it never happened.
You cannot just say with your mouth that it's not true.
Evidence of it. No evidence is 0.6.
They have accepted. If you have a contrary position, you must
just accept. They must show the evidence 0.6.
Can I make my point? Because when they each spoke, I never even did it once. You see, very, very strongly, I want to state this. Is it the Electoral Commission that is manning the process and these machines, or the public?
It's the Electoral Commission.
So if the people who are manning it are saying that these are the deficiencies, and you are not manning, you are not privy to what they are doing there, and you are telling them that what you are doing is wrong, then it means that you are now virtually taking over the work of the Electoral Commission. What I'm saying is that, Samson, you see, Mr. Benton, you may as well stay out of this debate.
Why should he?
And let me tell you why. You know what?
Use the EC's own information.
Just a minute. You see, Felix made some points, and they were political.
But of course.
And I'm not going to allow them to pass. He stated categorically that there will be voter suppression in certain parts of Ghana, and that this is what the whole process is politically motivated and meant to achieve such an end.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm not going to mention names, but let me tell you something very strange. When they registered DEC candidates last year, there's a particular constituency in this country that the number of registered voters, my constituency times 5, will give you the number of registered voters in that constituency. If you multiply the number of registered voters in my constituency by 5, you will get the number of registered voters in that other constituency. You know what? When they were registering BEC, the number of candidates in my constituency were more than the number of candidates in that other constituency.
How is that evidence of?
I'm trying to establish a point.
Oh, yeah, but go ahead.
You know, Mr. Benton, this is the reason why some people think there should be no new register.
Why?
Because if these numbers, as I have told you, which are not in debate at all, are anything to go by, it means that the number of young persons in my constituency are more than the number of young persons in the constituency where the population is 5 times my constituency. Which is very, very strange.
The number of basic schools.
Very strange.
You are comparing apples to
oranges. No, hold on, Felix. I have not told you which constituency I'm talking about. I'm making a point. I'm making a point. You see, the point is that, Samson, the point I am making is that the Electoral Commission, simply the Electoral Commission is mandated by law to compile. Right. They are handling it. They are saying that, look, let's say that we use the old register. Excuse me to say. We agree and accept the old register. Go ahead. And then in the elections, there are problems. And then it results in chaos and etc. Who do we blame?
Okay.
Do we blame those who said we should maintain the old register on the
question to you, Penka,
the EC says...
My very final question to you is this, that is there wisdom in the suggestion to the EC that already the nation is sinking a lot of money into a national identification system? We have passed a law that says only the National Identification Authority has the power to take our biometric data. They are in this process. They may not finish it at the time that you want it for elections, even though they say if EC collaborates with them properly, they'll be able to deliver it for them. Does it make sense, economic sense at least, that the EC shelves what it wants to do, then spends just a bit more, a little, to do the upgrade, manage that, and then going forward, it will now use the NIA data to do what it wants to do? Does it make sense? So that we rather spend money working with the NIA to get the database and an ID that is multi-purpose, serving all our purposes that we need.
You see, again, the economic argument that I have heard makes it even more strange, because you know the reason? When we decided to embark on this path of democracy, we knew that there was a cost to it. And we knew that we must find the money to do what we are supposed to do to sustain the democracy.
All right.
So to be making that argument today amounts to saying that we should revert to a system that will not allow us to spend money in carrying out our democratic processes.
So that
I don't agree with that.
Is going to do
let me indicate this. People have stated in the past, and I have heard people say, for example, we don't have water in certain villages, we don't have water, and therefore we are going to use this money to do A, B, C, D. They have not come to the conclusion that the other alternative is going to be free. They have not come to that conclusion.
All right. Okay.
See, you haven't come to that conclusion.
So you said...
I am saying that, please and please and please. As a nation, EC is acting in compliance with the necessary constitutional dictates and principles. Any person or group of persons who think that their actions are unlawful and unconstitutional can go for a pronouncement by a court. Until that is done, what they are doing is within their ambit, within their legal
Thank you very much.
Right.
And
so we should allow them to carry
exactly
out
1 minute, because we need to break here and come to deal with the MPP primaries issue. Yes, Kofi, 1 minute.
On the point that you made, when data is collected with a specific purpose, it almost always becomes tainted, because people give you the information you want. That's why footballers change their age. That's why when people are registering for work, they change their age so that they'll get, Now, the way to get sterile data is to collect it with no purpose specifically in mind. If EC collects data, it's because of the doctrine of necessity, because we didn't have an NIA. That data, because the political parties, everybody knows is going to go for election, will be tainted. Have you seen anybody tainting NIA data per se? So there are many reasons, and I don't have the time, but the point is this. According to EC's own information, their failure rate was 0.6. That was perfectly acceptable. According to EC's own information, the fact that a re-registration will cost more than an upgrade is not true, mathematically not true. So I'm saying, even if we allow them to do everything they are saying, their numbers, and I think it's very important, don't add up.
So we take a break on this note, and I'll read Professor Rasford Jampo's view. And he says the eminent advisory committee of the EC must go beyond a single IPAC meeting to build consensus around the issue. The EC must strive to accommodate the voices of dissent, and those who hold contrary views must express same in a manner that does not heighten the political tension too much. I'm very happy that today the views of a political party is in sync with those of some CSOs. Never should any political party, whether in power or in opposition, nurse the idea, whether overtly or covertly, of decimating CSOs. They may not be for you today, but may reason with you tomorrow. Ransford Jampo, thank you very much. And this show is brought to you by the kind of sponsorship of MTN, everywhere you go. Star Assurance, your solid partner. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. Amen Scientific, God is the healer. Duraplast, where Duraplast goes, water flows. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. MTN is proud to bring you Newsfile. MTN everywhere you go. Star Assurance, your solid partner. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. Amen Scientific, God is the healer. Duraplast, where Duraplast goes, water flows. So the NPP appears to... Let's start with Felix. So when I hear some leaders in the NPP say it's okay, let's allow like Chairman Sabonsu, some other leaders. Chairman Sabonsu, for example, has said that if you dare with him, you will be committing suicide. I remember very well how the NDC was hurt. This is a path that you guys have, traveled before. What do you say? They say newer members, they are suggesting that newer members should stay. And these older hands, which are experienced hands they need, should also stay.
Mr. Sampson, ultimately, the fundamental premise upon which democracy operates is to allow the people to choose their leaders. That is what it's about. It's not about what the leadership wants or what is beneficial to them. So I do not buy this argument about, Honorable Mensah Monsah has 20 years of experience under his belt, or the education minister is doing well with some policy, or that the deputy speaker, because his deputy speaker is unable to go to his constituency, so in an open contest they will lose, and therefore they must be grandfathered into parliament again. That is a recipe for implosion. And this is a party that is prone to very intense disagreements. In the run-up to the 2016 election, we all witnessed very serious cracks within the party. They may have papered over them and won the election, but they should not be under any illusion at all that those cracks can re-emerge if they travel on the path that they are traveling. Again, a wise old man, Dr. Obedo Samuel, once said that consensus building is the best form of democracy. I think that if they are minded to carry out some reforms in the name of experience and preserving people who have institutional memory, they should find a much better way of doing it. Those processes should precede the period of parliamentary primary, so that it is done in good faith. If today they go for Congress and say that, starting from 2024 or 2028, we as a party believe that we need to preserve people who have institutional memory and who have experience that can help our cause, either in parliament or in government or in any other sphere of life. So we are not going to hold primaries in areas where we have personalities like that. I'm sure that people will buy into it. But if it is made to appear that those seats are shaky because those who hold them today are not performing and the electorate there is dissatisfied with them, I beg your pardon, and so they want to preserve them, it is going to lead to this kind of chaos. And the NPP should be far too experienced to fall prey to this kind of thing. They must learn from the experience of others.
Right. Yeah. You are going in, and this will be your second time. So you must be happy to hear, Joe Osei-Wusu suggest, or the other persons who have spoken. We have heard, is it Efefanto and others, suggesting that first-timers should be allowed a second time because, you are just now learning the ropes in Parliament, and it should not be contested. So you can, do again and come back and assist. Otherwise, it's not helping. You are happy about such a thing, even though John Boydu says the form should be available to everybody and that everybody should be contested.
Absolutely. You see, that is where I wanted to take it from. You've hit it right on the head now. You see, the party leadership, that is by way of those who are manning the affairs. I mean, you have the chairman himself and the general secretary and the other executives. Their position is that every opportunity to be given to people who are interested to contest. The ones you are talking about are suggestions that are coming from certain leadership in Parliament. Okay, so we should not use that as the basis to generalize as though that is the position of the party. I think that is not the position of the party. I mean, I sit here, I'm seeking re-election. I've gone for my form, and for now, I don't have anybody challenging me. So if at the close of nominations, I don't have any...
sure that nobody challenges you. Which is what a politician must do. You're a good politician.
I must be honest with you. There are very, very, very competent and qualified persons. The MP in Kimpani constituency. I'm not the only person qualified. There are very competent persons. Some are in high positions in Accra and all that, who would have been interested, but all of them are allowing me to go solo. You know, so it sometimes also depends on how you manage yourself within the constituency.
So it must be an individual effort to work it out.
You have to work it out as an individual. You see, this issue of if we come out with a policy, then it will breed rebels. That's one thing that you should. You'll have people coming up as independent candidates and all that. It will further create problems. You have to form committees and disciplinary committees to look
and Joe Wise, who is speaking, has that experience because you have to go independent.
You see, truly speaking, for the first time MP issue you are talking about, it is true that people are not getting their footing sometimes because you are a first timer and all that. But you will also have glimpses of hope. If you are a first timer and you start on a good note, you know, people will actually commend you and try to support you. But if you're also a first timer and then you go sit in Parliament, you never make any contribution, you never do anything, people just see you as sitting there doing nothing. You should not be protected. There should be no basis whatsoever that should be protected just because you're a first timer. You have to demonstrate and earn it.
How about the old hands, experienced hands, who are fighting for government business to work in Parliament? When you lose them, you have a problem.
I want to tell you something. The Honorable Osei Chairman Saboso, the man is an embodiment of our democracy in Parliament. An embodiment. No dispute about it. The practice and procedure in Parliament, he's a master. And I admire him. Sometimes he speaks as though he's a lawyer.
So he should be protected.
So such a person should be protected, but not through undemocratic processes. You know, Samson, building consensus is part of protection. Those who are interested, you sit with them and then talk it over and let them know that
it will be suicidal for the party if he's allowed to be contested.
I may not wholly agree with that. I think that what the party should do is that I know of a lawyer who was my mate who is interested in contesting.
John Daku.
John Daku.
He went for the forms. He's being denied.
So I think
very
that
cleverly.
Such a person.
And you hear the regional secretary of the party trying an explanation that doesn't work.
No, I just think that John Daku is a very committed party member. He can be called. Then you sit down with him and then you talk to him to understand that, look, we are not saying you are incompetent. This is our leader. We want to give him some respect. I mean, we reach some level of understanding, and the man says that on the basis of what we have discussed.
Done how many terms?
I'm stepping aside.
How many terms?
But I've heard him. I've heard him. Six. This is sixth term. Yes, he's going for his seventh. But I've heard him state categorically that
Babin did how many terms? Seventh term.
Yes, seventh term.
Okay, so he wants to equal back.
I've heard him say it, and he was quoted, unless he comes out to dispute it, that he will retire in 2024 if he gets the opportunity. He said so. You know, so.
But he has said he retired before.
No, I've not heard him say before that he was going to retire.
I think they have
I've not heard him say so before. This is the first time I've heard him say that 2024 I'm going to retire.
Okay.
So, as our leader, if we have to talk it over with people to ensure that he retires in dignity and all that, rather than allowing him to go through this competitive
Interesting.
situation, that would be very sad.
Dr. Ali, do you say leave the decision to the delegates? That is the best democracy, the way to practice it. But here, the people who are seeking to pick the forms are clearly being denied. And you hear Adai Nimo also going to, he can't find the forms. Can they use also, when you hear the Ashanti Regional Secretary, Sampine, he says, you know, there are these few constituencies, they need to manage the process. Can they talk to the delegates and by denying these people the forms, manage the process? Does that not also work? Is that not democratic?
I don't think that's the right way to go. There is a democratic reason why we have primaries. One, it deepens intra-party democracy. Two, it builds party cohesion. You are talking about elite defection. When you make the processes unfair and elect a candidate, definitely people who are against will defect. So people, when you make the process more plain and open, when people lose and they know they genuinely lost, there will be a little bit of, they'll throw their weight behind the candidate in most cases. So it builds party, but also diversity. You see, there are some constituencies or some areas that you need to protect certain interest groups or certain identities. So there are a lot of reasons why we have primaries. So my first reason is, if you say let's protect them, for how long? It's not like a presidential contest where, you know, constitution give you two terms. In parliament, you don't have limit. So if you protect him now and he keep going, how long are you going to protect him? And once you keep protecting him and he doesn't want to go out, then you are suppressing the interests of other people who will have contested.
And it's in a region where it doesn't matter, in a constituency where it doesn't matter who you put there. As far as
I was even
MPP,
thinking, in the Ashanti region, that's where the MPP should even open it up for contest, because it's a kind of done deal. And people believe that once a done deal, whether I do well or not, I'll still get elected. That is where the competitiveness should even be more. That's where they should even open up. And where people are struggling, in regions where people are struggling to contest, then you give them that support. I'm not completely saying we should support them in that kind. But what I think is that the people must decide. If it's based on performance, if you know you've performed creditably well, why do you fear primaries? The people can decide, because you are representing them, that you actually did
no, but Joe says something. Is there not some truth in that? Can we listen to Joe Osei-Usu, First Deputy Speaker of Parliament? Can we listen to what he had to say?
But before that, I see you are still talking of protecting bigwigs. Even if they leave Parliament, they can still advise, they can still train, they can still impart that skills to new coming MPs. So it doesn't mean that once you're out of Parliament, then you're out of business.
Okay.
They can still train people.
Let's listen to Joe Osei-Usu and come back. Okay, continue. Go ahead. So, how about the new ones? What do you say about the first timers? They just came in, done only one term. It's now that they are getting used to the rules.
So you are looking at this you are looking at largely their role in Parliament. Exactly. They are still learning. But that one is different from what you do at the constituency. Exactly. Do you understand? What you do at the constituency will now get the people to give you the opportunity to learn better and do well. So these are two different functions. Your representative function within the House of Legislature. We agree. For the first time, you will learn. But that has to do with what you do at your constituency level. So that will give the people the opportunity to renew your mandate. If you go in and they say you are learning, you are not doing well at the constituency. So because you are learning, how long are you going to take to learn?
I see. Can we hear Joe Osei-Usu? Okay. I think there's some technical issue with that, because among the reasons he gives, Kofi, is that, look, because they are very busy, they have to keep government business in Parliament working. They are unable to go back to their constituencies like all the other colleagues would do. Osei Mensah Bonsu, literally, he's a minister, right? So he has to make sure, and government needs Parliament to pass the things he wants, approve the expenses he wants. And so you need to give them some protection. Is that not fair?
It sounds reasonable, but it is never good enough that you want a different set of rules for yourself and a different set of rules for others. So on that fundamental principle, they cannot advance that argument. Okay, but there is reason to it. I personally believe this is a national problem that is manifesting at the local level. I have made representations, at least within Imani, that we need to tweak our democracy. And when it comes to, for instance, Parliament, there should be more selectivity. Let me give you a simple example. Parliament or parliamentarians are there to make law. You need to know philosophy. You need to be able to speak and write English, because law is made in English. But there's no requirement that you be able to speak and write English to be in Parliament. My point is that we have not engineered a good enough system. Then you have subjected parliamentarians to a local level election, which is vociferous. Meanwhile, the work they have to do, like Joe is saying, and others like, the majority leader is talking about, it's real. But if you take someone like Joe Wise, he had this experience. Now, here's the real politic. If they do what is being suggested, it's equal to what we lawyers call ad hominem lawmaking. Okay, you look at the person and then you make a law. It always ends in catastrophe. Google it, you read it. History has taught us the lessons. And incidentally, the other NDC had this, experience. So here's the situation.
We have
and they suffered. They suffered.
Yeah.
Badly as
yes.
opposed.
And you know, look, honestly, I don't purport or suggest or even pretend to advise MPP, but I can tell you, if you go ahead with this, you will suffer, even in your safe seats. Yeah. There's already too much, you know, complaining within the ranks. Yeah. Okay? Figure out a way. And by the way, Kwemka, I think you're a fantastic politician. They should all come and learn from you. The way you have explained your situation is how this must be done. Exactly. Over the 4 years. Yeah. If you have a Jaws, also have other people like this, you engineer an internal arrangement which leads to a situation where the conflict doesn't happen at the end. Exactly. And it doesn't blow up in the public. But where you've got into now, you take my advice, it means nothing. But if you go forward with this ad hominem policy making, you will decimate your members and you take a you pay a hard price for it.
Just last minute. Yeah. And I think this is very important. I'm just riding on the back of what my senior colleague said. The primaries is happening around April. The new voter is starting around that same time. If people become angry with the process, they won't even register.
You will pay a higher price.
And the MP, they should be very careful.
Let's go through this one.
Okay, very, very, very interesting there. And got a couple of your messages here, but I suppose that time is run out on us. I'll just thank you all for tuning in and for watching us on your multi-TV and also on your DSTV channel 421. My guests have been Joseph Dendiok Penka, is MP Timpani and Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice. Godwin Ama, who was here earlier, General Secretary, Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. He was joined on the phone by Michael Kwejopepra, President, Concerned Small-Scale Miners. What a revealing discussion that was. Felix Kwachi Ofosu is former Deputy Communications Minister and the NDC's parliamentary candidate for Abura Asebu Kwaman Kese. Kofi Bentil is Senior Vice President of Imani Africa. Of course, Dr. Ali Duseidu, Senior Lecturer, Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. I visited a certain university and they were saying they need you there. Dr. Ali Duseidu. All right, thank you very much. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. As always, my outfit is by Latida. Have a good afternoon.